like to call to order the meeting of Tuesday, October 17, 2017, of the Duncannon Borough Council. We're after 7 o'clock this evening. I want to thank you all for being here. Welcome to Voice Troop 64 of Duncannon for your attendance and participation. I'd like to welcome everyone to please rise for a moment of silence. Mr. Hamaker, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Scouts to the one.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Please welcome Kathy to take the roll call.
Mr. Crothermouth.
Here.
Mr. Epley.
Present.
Mr. Adams.
Here.
Mr. Nace.
Here.
Mr. Williams.
Here.
Mr. Kirkhoff.
Here.
Ms. Young. Here. Mayor Capuano.
Here.
Solicitor DeSinger. Present.
Beautiful.
Engineer Rogowski.
Here.
Thank you, Kathy. Just a reminder for anyone that may have electronic devices, phones, pagers, etc., if you silence those or place them on vibrate mode only. Also want to compliment the borough crew. The room looks good. It's as bright as and clean as it's been for a couple years, at least.
I'm sorry?
The room looks great.
Oh.
Item number 5 on the agenda, we have before us minutes from September 19th for adoption, draft version in front of you. Any wish for action or corrections to minutes?
Motion we approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
Hey Chris, on the lights, did Mike and Mike do the lights like we talked about?
Mike Crowley and his crew did it.
Or did they do the fixtures as well?
Yes, they did everything. Painted inside and out, pressure washed the building, and that, of course, peeled the paint, so then we painted too, and some landscaping work, and there's still some little stuff to finish up.
Motion by Mr. Carlthorne, second by Ms. Young to approve the minutes from September 19th. Any further discussion? All those in favor give their consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. On the item number 6 on the agenda, public comment. We have a sign-in sheet. Yes, sir.
Bam.
The only person indicated they wish to speak is Mike Grogan. If you could indicate your address.
1016 North Market Street, Duncannon, 17020.
Mr. Grogan.
Last month, the Borough Council had asked Mike and I to look into these light fixtures in this building. We came in and evaluated the building, gave a list of our recommendations to the Borough Council or to the Borough Manager. Never heard anything from them. I see that the work has been done. And you can see it's a mess, actually. It looks pretty, but 8-foot lights, it's a waste of money. Now you have 8-foot lights in here, you have 4-foot lights, and you have 2-foot lights. Mike and I's plan was to get rid of these 8-footers and put 4-footers in here. For the $600, we were also going to be able to fix that room, and this room, at the same cost. Now, I don't know what the Borough Council workforce labor rate is, but it sure is a lot more than nothing. And that's what Mike and I's price was. This man never calls or gets in touch with anybody. We come down here, he's not here. When he is here, he's not available. He can't even come out of his room. Something has to be done. I mean, why is there a Borough Council? If you folks took time to vote on having this done, your time is important. And my time is really important. So from now on, any work that I do for the borough, it's $100 an hour. There's no more volunteer work for the borough until he goes. When he's gone, you can get free labor out of Mike and I again. But you won't get any more free labor. And I believe this is what you wanted all along. You've got a hidden agenda to try to destroy this town, particularly this guy here. I mean, the borough office is non-functional anymore for us residents. It's that black hole I've been talking about all along. That's my first comment. Second comment is to Chris. Did you ever find out what those stainless steel disconnects were for, Chris?
Mr. Cordy? Stainless steel
I'd
disconnect?
have to check again with Mike, that was a while ago, I don't recall exactly what his answer was. But I'll be glad to answer the other item because I don't appreciate the misleading comments one bit. This matter with the lights, council would recall that Mike Wolfersberger was eager to give us the order right then and called in the next morning. I waited and waited, never heard anything from them. Finally, 2 weeks later, I asked Mike Crowley, Mike, council wants these lights changed, can you do it? He said, yeah, all I need to do is get the bulbs, it's easy to do, take out the ballast and put it in. I said, get it done. We were cleaning up this room, getting it done, we wanted it done in time for this meeting. Last week, while I was in a meeting, or on a webinar rather, that I had to do, Mr. Wolfersberger dropped off his list with the estimates. And apparently, I shouldn't have been in that webinar that I was taking, that the borough, training that I'm taking, should have interrupted. I don't know. I know that when we asked them, they wanted to be involved in the generator project as part of the IT project. I sent them an email asking them if they would be willing to help with it, never got any reply. At that Tuesday's council meeting, I asked them, hey, did you get my email? Oh yeah, we were in, you weren't here, so we went ahead and did an evaluation. Nobody in the office even knew that they were here doing any kind of an evaluation. So, it's a little disingenuous to act like when you don't call to see if somebody's in, and if somebody's in a meeting or otherwise busy doing something, that doesn't constitute a black hole, that constitutes getting things done. And, that's what we did with the lights. We waited, didn't get any response, so we got them done because council wanted it done.
So when you say you didn't get a response, you actually called one of the mics?
When we left that
I just wanna make
meeting,
sure that I'm
no,
clear
I did
on
not call.
Okay, so then you weren't waiting for a response?
Mike said he was going to get that to us the next morning. He wanted them ordered right away.
Anything else, Mr. Gergen?
Yes, I do know what those disconnects were bought for. That man bought them, so he should know about them. And at that price, you should have known too, because that was probably between $8,000 and $10,000, and that's on the low end of the spectrum.
They were $20,000.
They were $20,000, and they were bought with intent to scam DEP. You were going to install them at the waterheads and tell them that they were for the emergency generators, and they don't have anything to do with the emergency generators.
Well, first of all, I ordered what I was told by the people involved in the project to order. I had it ordered. I didn't do the ordering personally. We had an employee who handled the procurement and who ordered them. And they ordered the parts that they were told were needed. So if it was the wrong part, or the incorrect part, because I know that we had one of the things from the 2014 inspection for DEP with the water had to do with emergency hookups at the wells. So I know that was something that had to be addressed. I was given the order, what the parts were that were needed, and I okayed that order, yes, because I was told by the people who had that expertise that that were the parts that were needed.
Anything else, Mr. Gergen?
Did you just gonna sit there and let him throw $20,000 away? Wow.
Does anyone else wish to speak? Mr. Hammaker?
Equally Tom, first off. So, Borough Council, Craig answered me back, and several other people answered me back, the mayor did. First off, thanks for letting the Boy Scouts come today. For those of you that are working on their citizenship for the community and/or communications merit badge. So we're gonna stay for about a half an hour or so, then politely excuse ourselves, but it looks like a good time. So I also wanted to specifically thank Roger Williams. Those that don't know, I work with Roger with the Boy Scouts, and Roger calls me up and we try to do any projects that we're able to through Roger. He's very good to work with, so you're lucky to have him on the Borough Council. Roger, thank you. The one thing I did want to talk to real quick, and as I sent a letter out to all the Borough Council members, or I hope everyone got it and received that. If I didn't get you, I apologize, and I can forward it. Mr. Adams, I see you're shaking. If your email maybe was on the website, maybe I didn't catch it.
Okay.
That might have been the only reason I didn't, but Kathy, did you hook him up?
Yes, I can.
That'd be awesome, because I know I sent it to you as well.
Yeah.
So basically, my letter was just explaining what the Boy Scouts do as far as recycling. I know you guys have a huge decision to make when it comes to your trash collection and your recycling. And I know that's based on financial. I completely understand that and respect that. What I guess I'm asking for is, via that letter, it shows our community service hours that we gather as a scout troop through recycling. So if you're on that fence of what we should do, I wanted to make sure everybody knew how important it is to Duncannon Boy Scouts that we continue the recycling program. Again, I completely respect the financial decisions you guys have to make, and it comes down to dollars and cents, and I get it. But if anybody has any questions about recycling, feel free to get in touch with me. I'm pretty easy to get a hold of. Roger has my number, and I know Kathy does as well, or I can answer any questions now. So, other than that, thank you for your time.
I was like state, I was completely unaware there was even recycling until you just talked about it.
And that was part of the reason, I sent the letter, actually, because I didn't know if people with the Borough Council knew exactly what we did. And it has some statistics in it,
Okay.
as far as, we don't really have the tonnage, but it has our man hours. I have it here. I don't want to read it, it's kind of long. I mean, I will read it if you really want me to. Do you want me to read it? It's kind of long.
Sure.
Are you sure? I don't want to hold up your time. Okay. So I'll-
You can paraphrase if you want. It's up to you.
Okay, I know, I get a little long-winded sometimes. Okay, so dear Duncannon Borough Council members, I'm writing on behalf of Duncannon Boy Scout Troop 64. We'd like to first thank you for your continued support for many years. We feel together we have a great relationship that has benefited the community in many ways, whether that be the numerous Eagle projects that have been done inside the borough or the smaller projects that we have assisted with. Together we have made small differences to help better our small town. Troop 64 started a recycling effort in 1942 during the war efforts. The troop has continued recycling in some capacity to present day. It has changed many times over the years, and the troop has changed with their collections efforts. We are proud of the recycling that has been accomplished, and we will never know the amount of tons of materials that has been collected from this small community that has helped our environment. The recycling effort currently is the second Saturday of each month for the Duncannon Borough residents and residents of Penn Township. We provide a curbside pickup to the residents of Duncannon, as well as small areas in the township. It is completely operated by the Scouts, the troop leaders, and other community volunteers. This collection has only been postponed 2 times, to the best of my knowledge, in the past 20 years. We understand the borough is exploring options for trash collection to include recycling. We certainly appreciate your effort in doing good business for the borough and have complete respect for the tough decisions that you as a council needs to make. We felt the need to let you know that we are willing to continue the current recycling program for the borough. The recycled material speaks for themselves with their benefits. What many of you may not realize is the benefits to the community service project and how it helps Troop 64 and all the Scouts. In the past year, September 2016 through 2017, we accumulated 962 community service man-hours during recycling. Community service hours are needed for every Scout to advance. We are fortunate to have the ability to recycle for the Scouts and their goal towards Eagle Scout. With the borough's financial support and community financial support, we've been able to offer free registration for each Scout for the past 35 years and possibly more. Many families have needed this to continue their son in Scouts. The financial contribution of the borough for our recycling efforts has allowed Troop 64 to maintain equipment, resources, and individual accounts, all while doing minimal fundraisers. When we do have fundraisers, the monies that are earned are used for the Scouts for their individual camping and equipment needs. We are truly fortunate to have the financial support that allows us to concentrate on the fundamentals of scouting and not so much on fundraising. In today's ever-increasing cost world, scouting in Duncannon has been extremely blessed to maintain this financial stability. Troop 64 has 40 registered Scouts. This is the most in Perry County. We would like to continue to have recycling done by the Scouts in the borough. If we can be of any assistance or any input towards your decision, please let us know. As always, we are willing to help in any capacity. So, thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak? Mr. Rosen, if you could state your address.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
There are two things that I'd like to speak about tonight. I'm Norman Rosen. My son Jimmy and I are at the old sled works. Hope you've all had a chance to be there one time or another. Recently being this past March, we had a fire. It was an accident having to do with overheating heaters, I guess, at our piece of property at 706 Market Street. Little house, kind of a dark purple or blue, but in any case, it was damaged to the extent that we could not take a tenant in anymore, and our tenant had to go find someplace else to go. And then just a few weeks ago, somehow or another, the place caught fire, and that really put the end to the house. There was no way we could ever fix it up, and we had to do something about it. And I kept in touch with Chris here, and I promised the borough that we would do our responsibility. We would own up to our responsibility and take care of that. And this past Saturday and Sunday, 3 and 4 days ago, we had the house demolished. And the reason I bring it up is there are two individuals living in the community or close by. One fellow, Bill Fickus, hope I'm pronouncing Bill's name properly, and the other one is Kevin, don't remember Kevin's last name, but he has the Snap-on tool business in the old dress factory right behind us. And I must tell you, those are two terrific assets that this community has. They volunteered to do the work. I like to keep work in a community that I'm involved in. I'm in business in a number of communities. I like to keep everything in the community if I can. Those fellas literally volunteered their time on Saturday and Sunday. I rented the equipment. That equipment was quite expensive, but they did it, and they did a terrific job. We're not finished yet. There's a third entity that was involved in the thing, and he was good enough to have his business respond on Saturday and Sunday, and that was Fernley Frisch. We used his, I call them dumpsters, I think he calls them cans or something, and he was there Saturday and Sunday. Now, I'm sure most of you know him, he can't drive that equipment or anything, but he had his people there, and they were good people. They got the job done Saturday and Sunday, and I considered him to be a real asset that the community has here too. The property is still not completely cleaned up. We have a little bit more of the debris to take away, and we have the dirt to be pushed around, graded and reseeded, and I expect, I've had promises from my associates that the job will be finished before the end of October, which we're halfway through October already, but they're going to be working on it, and I'm going to make sure that I keep up my responsibility as a member of this community, albeit only a business member, but we will have the property looking more than presentable. I always believe that when you live in a community, you have an obligation to the rest of the community to keep your property up. I can't say the same for some other properties, but that's not what I've come here to discuss. So that's item number one. The other item, it's been a long time since I was in school and we took civics class, but I remember that the definition in civics having to do with government was that the government's responsibility, the government's mission, and you are the government here, government's responsibility is to create an environment which is attractive for people and businesses to want to come and live. So what are those parts that make it attractive? I'll just mention some of them without talking about them. Water system, electric system, fire protection, police protection, things like that. Now there's one thing that's happening, and this is personal, at our end of Market Street. We have been visited and they've taken up home on our property, and that's a bunch of buzzards. And I'm not talking about people buzzards, I'm talking about these big winged, I call them animals, they're birds. I want to tell you, they're scary. They're big. I could see them carrying off something. They are making it unattractive. Unattractive in that they started to attack property on our property. And sometimes it's not the property that I own. The young lady that works in my office, Joanne Hamilton. Joanne's been with me, Bill Hamilton's wife, not his daughter now, this is his wife. Joanne has worked with me for years, and just recently, the buzzards attacked her car. They like to peck around rubber gaskets and so forth, and they've done somewhat over $300 worth of damage to her automobile while it's parked on my property at work. We've had a couple of our customers at the antique market who have had some damage done to their cars. If we're not careful, Joanne's not going to quit, but if we're not careful, the word will get around and we'll lose some of our customers. It's just not good. So I make the observation, and I hope that something can be done. I understand the birds are protected. They have a place in life, I guess. But they're also a nuisance. And I hope that council can find something that can be done to remove what I call something that's unattractive, but certainly not attractive as far as this community is concerned. And if anybody ever wants to talk to me about it or anything else, I always love to see people up there at the office at the old place. My children gave me a present when I think it was just a few years ago when I turned 75. They bought me a little metal lean-to, if you will, that I can park my car under, so it doesn't have to sit out in the sun when I'm there. So if you're ever passing by and you see a car under there, it's a very good chance it's me, and you're welcome to drop in and talk about anything. Love to see you. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, sir. Chris, are you aware of any programs? I know Department of Agriculture has at least pigeons that they'll deal with on some occasions as studies and such. Are you aware of any programs? I think they're black turkey vultures.
Yes, sir. Excuse me, one other point. Dauphin had a problem, and their problem finally came to such proportions that somebody came in with permission, and they captured 200 of the buzzards and took them out, and they didn't release them in the wild. I think the word is they euthanized them, okay? And they have a habit of being able to bear offspring, okay? So we're not careful. The way nature is, this flock, I think there's maybe somewhere around 15 or so that are up there now. I mean, you stop by someday, you can see them. They're all over the place. And they're scary. They get on my rubber roof on my office and they start pecking away at the skylight, and you can hear them tromping around. So I'm sorry for interrupting.
No.
They're going to get worse. They're not going to get better.
There's 220.
220 was down there in Dalton.
No, 220 in our neighborhood.
Yeah, it was up towards between Old and New Lincoln Street in the woods there's a lot of.
Well, there's two problems. There's a house on Lincoln Street that has piles of cat food set out, and they're there every morning, because I have to dodge them when I'm taking Sam to school. And they don't move. You gotta get out and like poke at them to get them to move. And there's people feeding them at Sledworks. There's people pulling in that parking lot and handing them bread. So that's two things. I mean, if there's food, they're not gonna leave, you know what I mean? So.
When I called the game commission, they told me there's only two ways to get rid of them. You cut down the areas that they habitat in.
Yeah.
Means you clean out all the trees, all the buildings, because they roost on a building, and you take away their food. That's the only ways that they can get rid of them.
They don't eat real food. They only eat dead.
No, they'll eat real food.
Well,
Yes, they eat cat food, they eat bread, they eat anything you put out there for them. And dead has to be recent kill.
yeah, well, that's what their place is in nature. They take care of the dead rabbits and the squirrels and the little ones. But I was told by the fellow that came up from the Department of Agriculture, wherever it is, they don't eat, they only eat the dead stuff.
No.
But I learned something new tonight. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's just because it's available, so they're eating that cat food that's out, and people are handing them stuff in your parking lot, I've seen it.
Well, we have a cat up there at our place too, somebody's
Yes.
feeding that cat.
Yes, a lady stops there at 5:30 every morning, feeds a cat.
And then the cat and the buzzards play.
Yes.
Yeah, they play with each other, they're not, we have a nature habitat up there now.
Have you tried anything to get rid of them so far? Anything that like just personally going out and?
Me,
Yeah.
we bought a paint gun.
Is that what?
Well, you gotta-
paint
you
gun or
gotta
a
hit 'em
paintball
first. It's not the easiest thing in the world.
Now they're
I've
just
heard of
searchers.
People like using certain sound, like firecrackers, stuff like that. to scare
Yes,
them.
noise will deter.
Straits Orchard
Now, I
used
know
to have a
there's,
big
you know,
cannon
You
they'd
won't
set
be
off.
throwing quarter sticks in the borough, but something that, you know, that's loud.
They don't like to see their dead brethren.
No.
And you can buy sample, you can buy, they're not stuffed, but it looks like them, but they're $350 a piece.
So,
So maybe if you can put something in the budget to help make our community more attractive, we'll let you hang them on the tower.
Dead turkey buzzard.
Tom, did you have a
That is
I do, Mr. Rosen, Kyle Van Y lives in our area, I don't know if anybody knows Kyle, he works for, I'm gonna call, Kyle Van Y.
He stopped by and
Oh,
talked to
so
me.
you did talk to
Yeah,
him.
that's where I
Okay.
got most of my
There you go.
education. Yes, sir,
Okay.
he's a good man.
Okay,
And he told me, he says, you're not allowed to kill him.
you can get a permit, it's my understanding, to shoot one a month or 12 a year.
We'll be multiplying faster than
Yeah,
that.
but you can,
Anyway.
you can do 12 a year, so that's it.
In 2060
person?
In 2060, they'll be going.
100 people
Yeah, we need 100 people to kill 12.
Research it.
I checked on the permit, because they're federal too.
Yeah.
So you gotta have both.
Is there any control you can do in your parking lot if you have people, I assume that the people that have been cited as stopping and feeding the animals aren't people you've invited to do so on your property? Is there any control you can do to tell those people not to do that?
We'll certainly put some signs
Some
up.
signage up,
Please
or
don't feed the buzzards.
If someone can be there, you know, if we know they're there at 5:30, if someone, you know, it's your property, it's private property, they're not welcome there to do that. You know, that may be a help at least
I
to
know the
start.
times I've saw them, it was outside of their normal operating hours, it's always in the morning.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe a sign would,
She stops there
at
on
least
her way to
stop
work.
somebody
Do you know
from
who it
feeding
is?
them. I don't,
Find out next time I see her.
Between 5:30 and 6. She stops there on her way to work, feeds a cat.
I don't know.
Plays with the cat.
Being that it's private property, I don't know that it's our role to approach this person. However, the property owner certainly would,
Yes.
you know, have that right. If someone's coming on your private property to feed this wildlife that you don't want there.
But what did you do on Lincoln Street? Is anybody feeding them up there?
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
somebody's feeding stray cats.
Yes.
And they're finding that cat food, eating the cat food, and it's usually 10 to 12 of them that I see running across. I mean, I can go out and look just down Lincoln Street, and they're big enough, you see them running back and forth.
Yes, sir, you can.
There was 23 in the yard the other day.
You see Roger's on.
at my
I'm
house,
next to it.
it's like
so-
down towards my house, they're more just flying overhead. Like if I'm in my pool in the summer, you look up, it's like you're being circled with vultures.
Chris is gonna take a look.
It's true, you are being circled with vultures.
The manager's gonna take a look,
Ominous.
through, I don't know that DEP is appropriate, but certainly Department of Agriculture and or
Don't float along on the.
the,
I'll check all the options,
see if there's anything.
private and,
What's Kyle's last name?
Van Y.
got it. When you mentioned it, I wrote it down.
He's the guy to talk to.
Care to know about their courtship rituals?
Does anyone else wish to speak?
Well, I was considering maybe Kitty needs a new home.
There are a lot of kitties that need to be
Yeah,
on.
we have a lot.
Are you volunteering?
But it's not.
Oh, you've got a nice farm.
I have my share. Every time the park closes, I get more.
The feral cats are an issue everywhere, and they are in the borough as well.
Any other public comment? We'll move on to number 7, appointments, resignations, correspondence, proposals, and citizen action forms. We do have a request from the Duncannon Assembly of God right next door to us. Their Light the Night event, they want to close the portion of High Street, as we've done in the past, from Hickory Street to Clark Street, basically in front of the church, from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. on Tuesday the 31st, which is the night of trick or treat. In previous years, the road had stayed open, and there was a lot of pedestrian traffic there while the road was open. I think last year, for the first time, we closed the road to increase the safety and give them some ability to flex into the streets. Is there any wish for action on the permit request?
So be it.
Second.
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
asked that we just condition it on their need to deliver written advance notice to the residents that are on the part of the street that are blocked. They said they would put it on their website or something, but most people aren't going to look at the church's website, so.
There is a note, I'm not sure if they wrote it, it's in different handwriting, different font. Also personal notice to homes, was that?
That, I added that.
Okay. If you just want to follow up with them, is that good with your motion, Roger?
Sure.
You're good with your second, Chris?
Yep.
We do have a copy of their certificate of insurance as well, certificate of liability.
And we'll still post that 48 hours prior.
Yes.
We have a motion by Mr. Williams, a second by Ms. Young. Any further discussion?
What's the amount of the liability?
Each occurrence is $100,000, or I'm sorry, $1 million. The aggregate is $3 million.
Thank you very much.
Any further discussion? All those in favor give your consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Sit down, Chris. Anything else under item number 7?
Yeah, Craig, I have the Association of Mayors and Boroughs of Pennsylvania, the dues for 2018.
And we have historically paid that, I don't believe we.
Yeah, actually,
There's 2.
well,
This one's directly related to PSAB, which we're involved with. The other one is mayors.
Pennsylvania.
and it's budgeted. All we need is something from you requesting it for the audit trail for Bob.
There it is. Anything else? All right, we'll move on to item number 8, general reports of the Borough Engineer, Mr. Rogowski.
Mr. Chairman, you have my written report, 3 items I want to discuss this evening. Item number 1 is related to the DEP notice of violation. The borough did receive a notice of violation subsequent to our meeting on September the 20th, I think it was. And basically it was for a number of pH excursions, which is a fancy word for the fluctuations in the corrosion control method. As we discussed at that September meeting, it's become fairly obvious why those excursions are occurring. It's going to require some modifications of the piping and also well houses. We believe that the appropriate course of action is to respond to this DEP violation. I had circulated a draft, and then also kind of refer to the Utilities Committee to discuss the end game with respect to that mixed building. That also ties into what's occurring and the issues we're having at well 1 with respect to the casing and some other things. It makes no sense to do the casing work if we're going to build a new building there. So it's all interrelated. But that NOV did come in earlier this month. I want to say it was like the 7th or 8th of November, October. So I would like to respond to them, at least in writing, essentially saying, hey, we're working on it. We're going to provide the notifications you've requested and then proceed from there. So
It also is requiring a Tier 2 public notification.
correct. The intent is to issue that as part of the newsletter, actually, and/or U.S. mail for residents that would not receive the newsletter.
That is, I do want to comment, I was at the meeting with DEP on the 20th
Correct.
of September. Roger was in attendance as well. And it appears as though that building, the mixing building, was either not designed or not built in compliance with our permit from the outset. So that's been in operation for 10 years probably. So it's not a new violation, it's not something that changed. I think that Pessy's frustration with the way that was built and the way that's operating was palpable that day. We had 3 staff members, an engineer, a water quality person, and the unit supervisor from DEP on site. They were, I think, pretty forgiving. We were preparing ourselves to be, I think, pretty defensive, but I think it went well. But for whatever reason, the way that system is designed in that building is not the easiest to operate, it's not the easiest to maintain, and it doesn't match our permit. So hence the reason for those violations.
And we're missing data. DEP can't find data related to it. We can't find it. We called Glaze up, the old engineer. They're looking for it still too. There's apparently we're missing the key.
And we can't determine if it was designed wrong or if it was built wrong.
Correct.
That's correct as well. So we don't know if the design was signed off and appropriate and it was just not built to the design, and again, somehow signed off that it was acceptable, or if it was not designed from the outset.
Right, yeah. So I guess I ask Borough Council's action tonight to be able to authorize the manager or myself, I guess, to ship out the response to the notice of violation as drafted. And schedule the Utilities committee meeting to further discussion about future improvements.
Wish for action.
Move it.
So,
The engineer to send the letters out, take care of the paperwork.
Yeah, just ask to coordinate with Chris.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we've already,
We have motion by Mr. Williams, second by Mr. Crowther, to authorize Pinoni to respond to the notice of violation dated October 3rd and handle all the paperwork. Any further discussion? All those in favor give your consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Item number 2, some good news. I had a status phone call with Drew Hall. He was our enforcement agent in DEP. We have met the kind of first round of criteria related to our consent order. He agreed we are cleared to move forward with respect to the replacement of some of the equipment at the plant. We did put the equipment package out to bid with respect to the screw press and some other items. We've received one qualified bid, and we are going to recommend this evening that that bid be awarded to that contractor. We are going to be cautious in issuing notice to proceed, however. Financing obviously becomes an issue here too as well. I know that that's tracking simultaneously. I don't think we're way off, but we need to be careful about doing that. As soon as we issue notice to proceed, there are some deposits and things that are due, so we want to make sure we have funds on hand to cover that. The good news out of all of this and talking to Drew is, as long as we're making steady progress, he did indicate that even if we were to miss that June deadline of next year, that the department would not be pursuing any additional action as long as we're showing steady progress towards that end goal. So that is good news as well. So I would ask for a motion to award the solids handling upgrade equipment bid number 2017-06 to Sherwood Logan Associates in the amount of $271,834.
so moved.
271,834.
271,834.
Second.
How's that compared to what we thought it was gonna be?
It's right in there. It's actually,
Okay.
the screw press itself was less expensive than we had our budget number, so
That's what I thought, that's why.
that still doesn't include the installation, that's
Right.
the piece, but, yeah.
We have motion by Mr. Crowther, second by Ms. Young to award the solids handling bid number 2017-6 to Sherwood Logan.
Sherwood
Logan. The amount of $271,000, $271,834. Any further discussion? And the funding source is in progress. All those in favor, give consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Last item, an update on the Chestnut Street project. As many have seen, there's been construction activity occurring as of the first week of October on Chestnut Street.
Good night, boys.
Good night.
Guys.
Make good choices.
Over to the table.
They are leaving.
The,
Smartest group in the room.
They started High Street, they worked their way up, they passed 9th Avenue today. They're hoping to have pipe in the ground by the end of the week. It's getting a little bit quicker as they move up the street, less impediments, et cetera. We only had one accident with respect to a service. There was a dead service in the ground. Didn't go anywhere, it just was sitting there. Contractor hit it. He was able to deal with that very quickly. However, the blessing in disguise was they went to shut some of the valves down around that area. To isolate that, we of course discovered some of the valves didn't work, which I can't say is a complete shock. So we have done a little bit further research. We're going to need to shut a larger part of town down in order to make some of these tie-in and connections. And there is a decision point to be made. And essentially the decision point is this: when we do the shutdown or shutdowns, we of course will try to eliminate the amount of time that this particular area of town is on a boil water advisory. But we're thinking that you're talking about a minimum of 4 days, possibly more, on a boil water advisory, not complete shutdown. And that is generally an area, it's about 6 blocks of High Street, most of Church Avenue, most of Lincoln Street, Stein Avenue, and Prospect, that kind of section of town. Option B would be to have the contractor install what they call inserter valves, where they actually put valves in a live line. They are rather expensive. You know, the cost to do that would probably be in the area of $15,000 to $20,000. You would still have boil water advisories with respect to some of those areas, but it would be an option to try to shrink that area of influence down. My personal recommendation, giving the piping system its condition, these inserter valves, you're essentially drilling a really little hole and sticking a little balloon in there. Who knows what could go wrong with respect to that? So all of a sudden 20 becomes 50, and really we're just doing it for the purposes of minimizing an inconvenience. I realize it is an inconvenience to the residents to boil the water for that period of time. We would work to try to minimize that. It could be upwards of a week, but I wanted to throw that out there before we just start making plans to shut half a town down. And it's really, I shouldn't say half a town, it's not even half a town. I don't know how many physical homes are gonna be impacted, but yeah, 50-ish maybe, maybe a little more than that, so I open it up, and really I think all we need right now is if Borough Council would like us to pursue costing out this additional, these inserter valves and things like that, or if we should just proceed with trying to minimize the outage.
I'm fine, I'd be fine with the boil water advisory being lowered. I mean, those valves, I'm afraid they would burst the pipe.
Right, exactly.
We're gonna end up in more trouble.
Drilling a hole in the pipe, I'd like to avoid that.
And then the problem is you leave them there, you know what I mean?
Right.
So they don't
It's
come
not
out.
gonna go away.
Yeah, so then you have a spot that you have other issues potentially in the future.
So you need action?
I just need a feeling, so as long as,
I think our feeling is pretty unanimous.
okay, we're gonna
Stay away
proceed with
from
the
valve.
shutdown. We will minimize the time period it takes, but we can expect that to be.
Do our best to let people know ahead of time.
Exactly, yep, we're gonna do all that. We have a meeting tomorrow to discuss all that, but I wanted to, if we're gonna go down that route, we'll certainly publish the plan well in advance. And we can expect that probably to occur in the next, week or, certainly end of next week at the earliest type of thing, so.
And, we asked for the community's understanding, we're trying to do a pretty serious upgrade, a pretty major upgrade to the system. We originally thought there would be little to no boil water advisory need. However, once you get in the ground, much like we found with North Market Street, what's on the maps and what we think is there is often not exactly what's underground.
And if the borough wants to open a sand mine, feel free. It's unbelievable the amount of sand up there. I was personally stunned, so, I mean, that is a,
Nice digging. Know all about that.
well, and you're digging up the hill, you'd think you dig out of it, you don't. So, there was a giant ice cap sitting over this borough at one point in time.
That'll run the whole way down the market.
It's crazy.
So we can open a beach
Beach on a hill.
underneath the
That,
railroad.
that whole, like behind my pool, that whole thing's sand.
Yep.
Never seen it before.
Sandy Hill, that was the nickname
Oh, there you go.
years ago.
Are they gonna, they paved the bottom half part, are they gonna keep doing that the whole way
Yes.
up?
Well,
Okay.
that's just, it's temporary.
No, no, I
Yeah,
get that,
yeah.
I just wondered,
Yeah.
because it is like,
So,
that,
so the idea
where
was
it
to
is
try to
now,
get,
it gets dug up quick with a couple cars going through, that gets dug up quick at the
They
The
wanted to
final
get-
restoration's next spring.
correct, they'll get the base course in this
Yeah.
fall yet, so it'll be semi put together, but final will be next spring.
They're gonna roll the curb back in on the base.
So, I'm sorry?
They're gonna roll the curb back in on the base.
Yes.
Thank you. Anything else?
No, sir, that's enough.
Anything for Mr. Rogowski? Thank you, Greg. Move on then to Public Works Operator, Mr. Hook.
I am hoping that everybody has a copy of the wastewater and the water system for September. I'll start with the wastewater first. We talked about replacing some, or fixing some manholes that had some I&I issues. I will touch base and say that the one in the treatment plant parking lot, which is what we call the skimmer manhole, we used that grouting. That was able to be patched and is currently okay. That same grouting we put in on the Elm Street manhole. And as I was doing the work, me personally was doing the work, it just pushed the water under literally pushed the water under my feet. I fixed it where the wall met the floor, and as I was standing there, I felt it vibrating under my foot. I thought I was standing on something, I was scared. I lifted my foot and a piece of concrete just lifted up and the water started pursuing there. So we patched that best we could, checked it a day later. We had water other places that weren't patched. So the grouting worked as far as the seal, but there's that much hydraulic pressure in and around there that it just pushed it to other places. So that
Wow.
grout system works in places where it's not hydraulically pressurized. For other applications, it didn't work. So that's sort of an update for there.
Do you remember what the cost was on that, Greg? That project?
200, I want to say. 190. Oh, maybe I'm sorry.
I think you're thinking the
100.
whole way through.
Yeah, I think it was like 100. That's off the top of my head.
That's from market down.
That was from not replacing the manhole market, just the
Right.
pipe from that
Right.
manhole down to the, and eliminating that manhole Kevin's talking about. So.
Correct.
So that was a little bit of work.
I just kind of, I almost just want to, where's my balances? I just want to do that project.
Me too.
We
So
have,
there's a motion and a second.
well,
Second.
there's no first yet.
Well,
And maybe this will be under finance, do we have any update on the loan process? Now that we have the,
We had two,
No, we have no
yeah,
positive news at this point.
nothing, yeah,
I
nothing's changed.
assume
A
that.
couple maybes.
Because we have the CD that it matured, that's up like 41,000. I just want to get this project done. Because that's letting a lot of water in.
We could just pull the manhole out.
What's that?
We could just pull the manhole out. Just limit our work to that little area.
What do you mean, like?
what are you gonna do, Greg? Come up from Water Street?
Yeah, start at Water Street, go up to that manhole, and just go beyond the manhole and stop.
Okay.
That would not be. We could do it for 40, I would think, for sure.
So wasn't, there was something about Market Street and tearing that back up and trying to avoid that, but wanting to do it and.
What we wanted to do was avoid having 3 manholes there.
That figure? Yes.
So the problem was that the ones in the middle of Market Street.
Right.
So if we did that, Greg, what are you kind of saying? Like we're almost like sleeving the pipe that's there?
No, I was suggesting we'd open cut, we'd actually go down, we would replace the pipe from the manhole in Water Street.
Okay.
We would completely remove the dummy manhole Kevin's referring to.
Correct.
And just go right beyond that and stop and tie back into the existing pipe and not do the other 100 feet or whatever up and over.
What would the drawback of that be?
Because I'm sure that entire pipe needs replaced, and it's only ever gonna, the cheapest it's ever gonna be to do is when you're sitting there doing it. So, if we were to come back and do it later, you'd just be paying another mobilization, having to dig that all out, and it would be, it might be 50% more to combine together as a project.
so you're thinking the whole thing could be like 60? You said you could do
I
that?
felt like it was like 80, Greg. I thought it was, oh,
I could check. We could circle back with it for sure.
It's inflation.
We could bid it
Yeah.
and not accept the bids.
I mean, I'd like to do that. I just, this has been, what, Roger? We've been trying to figure out a way to do this for 6 months
At least.
Like just, and that's, we've tried to think of everything. to
Well, and I
do it, like, and not waste money essentially.
I can bid it in a way that we can, like, have some choices, you know what I mean? So we could bid a piece of it or the whole thing and get all the numbers and just say, hey, this
Get a pair of bids
Yeah.
for each contractor,
Yeah.
or whatever they're willing to.
Yeah.
Are you gonna still look at core boring underneath instead of disrupting market?
Yeah, I think we talked about actually sleeving that piece.
That's right, we talked, that's exactly what we talked about doing that, that's right. That was the thing with Market Street, was to try and,
You gonna put the bid out that way?
We could do it, yeah.
both ways maybe?
So be it. Make a motion.
I'll make the motion. Can we put it out both ways, to cut into Market Street and bore in, I don't know what the difference in price was on that.
Well, just because it was such a small piece, it's gonna be solid, so
Yes.
that's the problem.
Yeah.
You'd almost be better off slipping the whole thing at that point, if you're gonna bring a slip line guy out here. It's gonna be pennies to do the whole thing above just that little 30-foot section,
Oh, okay.
you know what I mean, so, but. I know what you want, let me put together a
Work pretty
package,
different,
present it, and then you
yeah.
guys can pick.
Okay.
So, give me an idea timeline, where would this end up as far as bids and then doing the project?
Early, well, probably when the weather breaks in 2018.
Is when we would do the
Yeah,
project?
correct, yeah. Before the
But
spring.
again, the consensus has been if we get projects on the docket now, that may be better for pricing, because the guys are looking for work for next year.
Correct.
Yeah.
So,
Not so much here because that's a pipe job, actually, it's not
It won't matter,
dependent on the paving. yeah.
Is there anything we can do at all now? I mean, I don't know what we can even
Well-
do because we can't get in there to sleep, like,
My concern is, until we get through the 2016 stuff and get everything balanced, so I pulled by, I don't know that we're at a point right now that we can commit.
oh, yeah, no, yeah, I mean, our patch job, idea 3 isn't working.
Well, you can get a price back on a quote
Yeah,
to do 30 feet.
yeah,
40 feet.
absolutely, yeah.
And that would be the upgrading to the size of pipe we're gonna initially run through there, that
Correct,
too,
yeah.
correct?
Yep.
so I think we have a motion by Mr. Kirkhoff, a second by Mr. Williams, to authorize Pinoni to bid the Elm Street project in some different
Yes,
options.
configurations.
Configurations.
Yep.
You have all, because we had talked about we changed the width of the pipe on that, we talked about a couple times, because you started that at an 8, and then it was a 10,
Yep.
and a 12, and it was the nominal dollar difference in the pipe cost, which is why we were going up.
Correct.
Yeah.
So whatever we
Yeah.
finished at, I can't remember what we ended
I
up
think we
getting.
talked 12.
Right, because I think there's 12 that run down together, and that's what
Yes.
we were discussing,
Yes.
so.
Awesome.
Is there any further discussion? Are you good on the motion, Kathy?
I think so.
Kirkhoff Williams motion to authorize Pinoni to bid Elm Street with different configurations.
I put with options complete or in portions.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor give your consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Back to Kevin.
All right, real quickly, at the sewer plant, we did get both influent pumps are installed. I think I touched base last month, or I don't recall if that was definite or not, but we have 2 new influent pumps. Flight, the manufacturer, was there. They certified that both pumps are installed properly, working the way they're supposed to be. So we have 2 brand new, properly, and everything's good to go. There is 1 still old style that is there, and that's functioning fine. So we're good there. We are developing a plan currently, right now, to get the smoke testing done yet this year. There are several manholes we went on Water Street, all of them in the macadam we have opened up. In the grassy areas, we need to torch, drill, dig something, and I've gotten with Mike over here, Riley at the crew. We need to get in the grass areas and get those opened up. Doesn't matter how, but we gotta be cautious that we can still get a bolt, at least one back in them, to hold them in place during a flood event. I don't wanna just rip them out and put nothing there. So my gut thought was torch them off, but then you can't put a bolt back down through if they're torched off the top. So some thought has to be done there, and we will need to get into some of those to do the smoke testing. So I need to plan accordingly, and then we're also looking at depth, and we're preparing to make sure that when we smoke test, everything is lumped. Here's our plan, we're gonna start here and here. I got enough bottles of smoke, we gotta notify the personnel, fire department, county, whatever. We're lining that project up. So I was thinking, I wanted to do it 2 weeks ago before we got rain, but when we came to it, I thought, yep, now's the time to do it. We said, where do we start? So it's like, we gotta develop a plan. I thought I saw something from Lonnie, the previous operator, but it was just his notes of the houses that had violations. I did not have, he started a panhole and went through. So we're developing that plan. When it's fully developed, hopefully till next meeting, we'll have everything ready to go. If not, already notified that we can do it in the next 4 weeks, and get that taken care of. So that's sort of our direction, what we're looking to do sewer-wise.
If you torch those off, what do you do to fix it? How much does it cost to fix it?
We would still have to drill the rest of the remaining part of the bolt out of the underside so we could put at least one of them in.
I'm just thinking-
There's 4 bolts in
okay,
each manhole
right.
now, and so if you cut all 4 out, we still have nothing, so at least one of them would have to be drilled out.
Otherwise, we'd have to do a replacement of,
Yeah. So then it just becomes more labor intensive, time consuming, so, yeah, we went down through with an impact wrench, and they're rusted, broken, non-existent enough that, yeah, we're not gonna get what's remaining there gonna take some time and work, so. Water system wise, we did talk about the inspection, we have the Chestnut Street project. I'm looking here at the number for the water loss, we're still high. I want to look at the new numbers from meter reads, because I know the numbers coming off the wells, what we're producing is accurate. So I don't know if we still have some meters, could be a couple meters that are giving us a 26% unaccountable water. But that is higher than what we were before we fixed the reservoir. So someplace where I'm not noticing standpipe levels low, reservoir levels low, so I don't think we have a big leak or we wouldn't be satisfied in those levels. So I'm gonna sort of hope and guess that I have some meters that aren't reading properly. They might be reading, but we got low reads. So, you know, it's could affect the income. If people aren't being billed properly and the numbers aren't, then that's gonna reflect it, but I haven't looked at that yet, and I plan to do that here in the next couple of days if I can come into the office and look those numbers over, or if somebody in the office has an opportunity to look and send the guys out to verify they're accurate or not accurate, so.
Paula demonstrated for me some time ago that the meters, if they start to go bad, they'll actually read less water is going through them than actually is. So it actually is to the customer's benefit when the meters go bad, just for the record.
We're not ripping people off.
Yeah, so it actually, it produces more water, passes more water than what was being billed, which would equate to, you know, increased water costs.
Something like that, yeah.
And the water production hasn't, that's still pretty normal.
Right.
So, yeah, you know.
That's lower than, we were at 133 before the reservoir, so we're still in the 120s. So that, again, the numbers we're producing were good, so the loss.
Other than meters, you don't have any suspicion of any location where water may be lost?
No.
You guys don't? Roger looks like he's thinking.
I'm not certain yet, that's why I've talked to Mike Priley about it, but I haven't talked to you yet.
Yeah, we get an occasional complaint, we'll go pursue it, and usually to the time we go and pursue it, it's gone. So,
Do you need anything else from us?
not this time, no.
Anything for the operator, Roger?
Yeah, the booster pump pit at Chestnut and Church, that's cut out of that new line, correct? Then can we have that pit tore out and filled in?
Yeah, well, they've just gone by it now, so.
Yes, yes.
I wouldn't do it quite yet, but yes.
Well, I'm not
Yeah.
saying, yeah.
Yeah, yes.
Thanks.
Anything else for the water operator? Water and sewer operator? Thank you, Kevin. Move on then to Borough Solicitor. Mrs. Dissinger is here this evening.
I have no reports this evening.
The beautiful Mrs. Dissinger.
Anything for the solicitor?
She says the same thing when Bill's here.
No.
Chief Warner, I'm guessing if he's in town, is on a call, so he's now back to him if he comes back. The mayor, Mr. Capelwan.
So, spent last weekend at the PSAB Leadership Conference. You can just pass it over, I have your name on it. Yep, they're in order. So, there's three things that I'm handing out to you guys. It's writing an effective ordinance. It's actually very interesting. You can kind of read it through the PSAB's eyes. Crosswalks. So you would think that an hour-long presentation on crosswalks would be boring. We only got to page 8 of a 19-page discussion on crosswalks with about 50 people. And the amount of questions that come up about crosswalks was astonishing. So this is actually very good from an ADA standpoint as well. And then Act 172, which was enacted in January 20th of 2016. This allows municipalities to actually give a real estate tax credit as well as ETIC tax credits to volunteer firemen and EMS. So it is very new. There's only one municipality that's doing it right now. I have a copy of that ordinance as well. So if you guys want to see it, I can get that to you. It's very interesting. It's minimal. I did talk to Byron about it. He called it eye candy. I talked to Craig about it a little bit as well because it does involve EMS.
Usually they're too poor to own property.
That's why you
Just
can
saying.
do both. You know, the earned income tax credit for us doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense because most people don't work in the borough. So if they're not gonna get that benefit if they don't work in the borough. I will present this as well to Penn Township at the end of the month because if it's something that we wanted to do, one of the suggestions is Penn Township would wanna write a similar ordinance with us because you could have people from Penn Township in the Duncannon Fire Department. So you wouldn't want somebody there being able to get something if you didn't live in the borough versus Penn Township. So I'll present that to them as well. And then Craig, I'm gonna give this to you. This is the Certified Borough Officials Program through PSAB. I am working to become certified. It takes 66 credits, and if all the information is in there, I think I'm up to 18 credits. But it is something that I think is valuable for us. These conferences, I mean, I spent all weekend away. Luckily, my family could go with me. They gave me this lovely shirt. It is, but it was well worth it. It was about 23 hours over the weekend. But very, very good conference. I hope that when we get into the budget piece, you know, little plug for Christy and for Bob, putting more money in for training. You know, newly elected officials, there's going to be a 2-day training on January 12th and 13th in Dauphin County. I think it's important for the newly elected officials to go. And then just using the PSAB website and using them. I know Chris has been on some webinars. You know, Craig does a good job of sending those webinars out, but let's make sure that we're taking advantage of it because there's a lot of good information that they're sending out. And we're a part of it, so let's make sure we're using that. Other than that, that's all I have.
Would anyone at the table like the certified borough official? I've seen some of this before, but I've had the papers in my hand before. Would anyone like copies of this? I can scan them, you know.
I don't want to be certified.
What's that?
I don't want to be certified.
Well, you are, it's just you're being something that doesn't come up like that.
They don't want that. Thank you.
I have been in touch with the counselor at Susquehanna about the junior council program. He does have 2 kids that could be interested. So they're just working through, we went through the time frames of committees and council nights. So I know he does have two people that could be interested in it as well.
One of the mothers that he approached was asking some questions, and her daughter seems to be very interested, so.
Yep, and he has all the information, and then he'll get that to me if enough for me to follow up with him.
Good. Anything else?
That's it.
Anything for the mayor? We also have the September Codes Enforcement Report from Mr. Clay. I don't know, and correct me if I'm wrong, Tony, I don't remember ever seeing any of our reports, letters of awareness for blowing grass onto the street. And I've heard,
Just new for the summer.
I think that's something that's worthwhile, you know, I know on state roads, it's actually a violation of vehicle code to blow your grass and snow and stuff on the streets. And I can see where it could be an issue for water intake and stuff, especially with leaves.
Well, that and street sweeper and
Right. So I'm glad to see that. I don't remember ever seeing that before, so thank you. Does anyone have anything for them? We move then to the secretary.
No report.
Thank you, Kathy. Manager, Mr. Corbin.
Thank you, Mr. President. The agenda item as far as the appointment of a UCC appeals board, I did not get a chance to get in touch with the gentlemen that are on the board for Penn Township. I don't know if I didn't hear back from any council members as to anybody that we could appoint. We do not have an appeal filed yet, so I think we can wait until next month's meeting. But we do need to look to establish this board. It's a legal requirement. It's also one that we'll likely use this one time and then not again for quite some time. I know that Helen said Penn Township, since 2004, they've had 2 cases.
How many people does it need?
It's usually 3. The law doesn't state an amount. In discussing it with Bill, we felt that, obviously an odd number and you wouldn't want just 1, but 3 would seem to be adequate. That's similar to zoning hearing board. The difference being that they do have the requirements that they have the background in architecture, engineering, or the construction and building trades.
Did you reach out, is the young lady in Newport, she's on Newport's Borough Council from the county called?
Is that Tammy, I think?
Tammy Halstead,
Yes.
that's the name. Has she Did you reach out to her at all as far as a county-wide board? I feel like this is something that's perfect for a county level. It sounds like that was the original intention, but it never happened.
My understanding is that that was the original intention. Bill thought that there was one. Then when we checked with BIU, they said no, that each municipalities were doing it by themselves. It would make sense to do that. I'd be happy to make that effort, but I don't think we'd be able to get that at a county level put together in time for this one that we're expected to have.
Right. I would say at least in tandem to, Marysville,
Absolutely.
Bloomfield, Newport, Millerstown, Liverpool, the municipalities closest to us. If they have something in place, we could, maybe work with theirs or recruit people from theirs, or I think the better thing would be either a regional or a county-wide board for that purpose, especially as infrequently as it would be used.
I'll reach out to Tammy and see if we can get that started.
Based on what you read, all the municipalities around here have the same issues with these type
Right,
of boards.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yes.
So if we had something that was more of
Penn Township's three-man board is down to two right now, so,
two more.
yeah.
So if anyone knows anyone, has anyone that's engineering or surveying, architectural type of experience, background, who might not be, might not be unwilling to serve in that capacity for a couple hours here and there, I think it would be worthwhile. There's also a small stipend that could be paid for those positions as well.
Yeah, Penn Township says volunteer right now. I did get, late this afternoon, I got an email from Helen with the names and the contact information from their two. She said she had not been able to reach them yet, and I did try to call them and didn't get hold of either of them this evening. They don't need to be a resident of the borough, that's the other thing. By law, they do not need to be a resident of the borough to serve on this.
To
And
do a
just for
regional
the-
or a county, though, we would have to, by ordinance, do an interviews for agreement to do that.
That
So
was
there's
what
some-
Bill indicated, yes. Just for the members of the audience, if you know anybody with that background, an engineer, an architect, or building trade experience and expertise, what we're looking for is individuals to serve on an appeals board for building permits that get denied for one reason or another, if they're seeking an exemption or a variance. I'm not sure that's the proper legal term for it, but anyhow, the appeals have to be heard by an appeals board. Mary, you looked like you had something to add. Maybe you have some experience with them?
No, I have nothing to add.
Okay. So anyhow, if you know somebody that would be willing to very rarely attend a meeting and listen to an appeal and help make a decision on that, it is a quasi-judicial board. It can't be any of the members. It's not like the authority where the members can be members of the borough council. It has to be independent. But other than that, as long as they have those qualifications.
Chris, do we have a job description of it?
We don't. There's ordinance language, and I did send it to Craig, but I'll send it out to everybody. It's not ordinance, it's state law, the language that they have for it.
It's specific yet vague. It's kind of typical statute.
It will also, when you appoint the board, you'll also need to appoint a solicitor for that board, and the solicitor will guide them through most of the process and help them with the legalities and so forth. I think Bill had some names of some potential solicitors from the area that handle that kind of work. We had discussed it briefly last week.
Anything else?
Okay, yes. Just two other things. As far as the water loss is concerned, there was a lot in my written report about, we had a visit from, you might have remembered that Craig and Roger at when DEP was here for that visit, they mentioned the technical assistance program that they have. They had a gentleman come up and meet with me. I'm in the process of compiling information for them. One of the services that they offer, and it is a program designed just for very small public systems or nonprofit systems. One of the services they offer is a water audit, where they will come in and help find the water leak and the water losses. They'll bring in an expert to do that for us. They are also, when they get the information back, there's an organization they're going to contact. The representative from DEP was optimistic he could get them to do a water rate study for us, which was one of the rate studies we had talked about at the last meeting. So I'm still working on that grant application, but I'm waiting till we hear from them so we know the scope of exactly what we're looking for and whether or not water would be a part of that. The other thing, just to answer, Mayor, your point about the training budget, Bob and I did discuss that before he presented the budget to the Finance Committee, and we had plans to go back and look for where we could move some money. We're trying to keep that general fund budget with no tax increase this year, but I absolutely agree with you, and one of the things I did mention to him was the newly elected officials boot camp, because I know that's a very valuable program. And
that's
we
local, that's in Harrisburg.
Yes, and we also did take a look at because of the fact that as active as you've become in the Boroughs Association, that there's some more programs that we didn't have enough in the budget to cover. So that is being looked at and will be brought back to the Finance Committee.
I think historically, generally, this room did engage in a lot of training, so the number was always relatively low. The fact that we have people that are interested in training, I think, is great. So if we can make that work, I think we're going to have potentially some new folks on the council, for 2007, or 2018.
And the CBO program is a great program. Keep track of your credits because they lose track. And I've been back and forth with them several times trying to find out exactly what I still need. And I said, well, what about this course? We didn't have that. So.
Yeah, next year's, the annual conference is in Hershey in June, but then next year's fall conference is in Seven Springs, which is near Pittsburgh.
That's all I have. If anybody has any questions about my written report.
Anything for the manager? The third quarter payment for the fire company, I think I saw somewhere else.
On the Finance Committee.
All right. No other action items in your report?
They're all under the other committees.
Anything for the manager? Move then to the approval of the treasurer's report. We have the weekly bank review dated September 30th. Should have had that in your packet. There's actually a fair amount of information there with the statement of revenues and expenditures and the letter on the liquid fuels audit.
Motion to accept the weekly banking review of the treasurer's report subject to audit.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Crowther, second by Ms. Young, to accept the weekly bank reviews of the treasurer's report subject to audit. Any further discussion? All those in favor give your consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next on the agenda is ratification and approval of bills. You also have the selected check register dated 10/14/17, listing your bills to be approved and ratified.
Make a motion to pay and ratify the bills.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Young, second by Mr. Crowther, to approve and ratify the bills as presented. Any further discussion? All those in favor give your consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Move then to the standing council committee reports, facilities and fleet, Mr. Eckert.
I've been unable to get the three mics together, and Roger and myself to go over the electrical system in the garage off of Hickory Street, but Mike did come forward with a, this is copied back and front, page 1 and 2, and this is his recommendations for our long-range plan. There's no dollar marks to it, but I think we should review that and decide which is going to be taken care of and in the number and order that they should be taken care of. And this is his honest opinion. He wrote this out. I had nothing to do with any ideas on this paper. So we have scheduled a fleet and facilities meeting this Thursday. If people review this before that, if they want to come to the meeting, if you want more time, let me know.
I don't think I saw that. Is there dollar amounts in there that should be being considered in the budget?
Nope, it's just a long-range plan.
Okay.
In fact, you can have that one if you like.
Anything else?
That's all I have right now. I'm still trying to get the gentlemen together to look at our shop and garage over here.
Anything from Mr. Eckert? Move then to finance, administration, communication. Ms. Young?
One
Oh,
thing,
Mr. Epler?
should we have a fleet facilities meeting this Thursday, or should we leave that go so everybody has a chance to review that? And there's no dollar amounts, they're just miles and hours on the equipment and what he has to say about each individual equipment, so.
I don't think we're looking at anything for next year, for the upcoming year's budget.
All right.
Are we? I mean, based on what I've read here pretty
The
quickly.
only thing for next year's budget that I've been told is a new mower,
Right, we talked about that last month.
and that's $16,000+ to put in the budget, and that comes out of various accounts.
And you got that last month, Christie, right?
We heard about needing a mower. We didn't get any details on any specs or anything like
We had
that.
no
We'll have to go to, we wouldn't have to go to bid, but we would check prices on those and, at that amount. But that would be something that we would put in a capital budget, not in the annual budget. And
But that's on your radar for.
Yes,
the
it is on
18th.
our radar.
What do you think, Roger, for Thursday?
No, I don't see no need. You, Craig?
I think this is good information to have a full inventory of everything. I honestly didn't realize the street sweeper was that new. He was
Yeah.
23 years old, I didn't know it was that new. But,
It's showing its age at 23.
This is great though, because one of the EIP tasks is a complete asset inventory. The DEP program will do that for us for water, will help us with that. And my plan had been to take the techniques they teach us for that and use those for the other, but this will give us a good start on what Mike has. And, we had talked about some other, this is only talking about trucks and bigger equipment, but some of his smaller equipment needs too, so we'll look at all that.
this is 11 pieces of big equipment, has what it is, the year of purchase or manufacture, the mileage if applicable, the hours if applicable, and just some commentary from the foreman, the guy who uses it every day. So it's I think, some good information to start that process.
Yes.
So we'll say then we don't need to meet Thursday?
No.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. Epler?
That should be it.
Thank you, sir. Move on to Finance Administration Communication, Ms. Young.
So before you is the statement of revenues and expenditures, but it has out on the right-hand side, the 2018 proposed budget numbers. This is just kind of our/Bob's first cut at this. So I would ask that each of the committees look at their areas and their sections, make sure it reflects what you think you need for next year. And, we'll be ready to move forward to advertise that next month. Bob, did you have anything you wanted to add or bring up or mention?
I had attached that information having to do with the state highway aid fund, the letter that the president had indicated, in part to inform you that, that our monitoring report was good for highway aid for the 2016 audit. And it also provides within that report our actual uses and future funding. So I provided the report to show you what our total assets are available in the highway aid fund, because that's the fund where we do our major street reconstruction, repaving if necessary, major equipment. So it doesn't look like it belongs as part, but it does. It's supporting information for the highway aid fund. And if you have any questions at all, please feel free to email or call me. I'd be happy to spend time with you to go through any of the, it's a first draft budget. It's in Finance Committee, and this is your opportunity then to get with Finance to indicate changes you think need to be made, or things that got missed, or things that should be added, whatever.
Maybe I missed it when I looked at this. I'm looking at it again. When I looked at this the other evening, I didn't see the fire tax portion. That's not included here in?
Yeah, fire taxes is actually under real estate. It's already on the very first page.
The third thing capitalized.
Oh, okay.
Real estate tax, it's a revenue line item.
Okay.
So, and it's current year and previous year, so.
Right. I was looking for a separate page like with expenses, but obviously
No, it's
expenses.
part of the general.
Okay.
Not to jump ahead to streets, but since Bob mentioned the liquid fuels budget, at the streets committee meeting, we got Mike's preliminary street paving plan where he went around and evaluated the streets in the borough. Working with Greg, we've got some estimating figures to use now. So now we need to narrow down, okay, which ones does he recommend be done soonest? And he'll come up with his rotation, his plans based on these cost estimates and so forth, and then that'll come back to the streets committee for them to make their recommendations and move forward with any street paving plans. So we'll use that amount that, you know, is in our budget for the liquid fuels as part of the guidance in putting together those recommendations when Mike finishes them up.
And the two projects for sure that are coming out of there would be Butcher Shop, the Butcher Shop culvert, and the Locust Street wall.
Butcher Shop was budgeted previously to be financed.
Right.
Oh, that's
And
right.
the Locust Street wall, we are investigating one of the street paving plan. We got help from the local technical assistance program from PennDOT. And the traffic engineer that they sent up to help us with that, when we were talking about that project, suggested we look into the dirt and gravel road program. That was the one that we explored previously
For the culvert.
for
Right.
Butcher Shop Road. He felt that we could probably make the case of the stream impact because of the location of that wall and the erosion and runoff problems that would be caused if it, so we're going to look into that. Vicky from Greg's office is scheduling a meeting with the guy at the county that oversees them to have him look at the project, see if he feels it would fit the criteria, and then if so, we'll proceed to spend a couple hours counting cars going up Locust Street to prove that there aren't 500 a day, and we'll put in the grant application, so.
And I'll bet a significant portion of whatever that number is aren't our cars, they're cars going to Penn Township.
We can actually, yeah, and we can actually send, we could even set one of our part-time employees up there to count for an hour and extrapolate from that. We don't need to have a full-blown traffic study or anything done for it.
It's the same as Butcher Shop Road, it's our responsibility, but the majority of the traffic on Butcher Shop Road is going into or coming out of Penn Township.
Right.
So it's serving an adjacent municipality. And originally, I think if you go back, the money that was originally tentatively diverted to Butcher Shop Road was the money that was going to fit into the finished paving on North Market Street. And now we're talking about the wall and Locust, so we've also got that somewhere in line, but you know, that was the base coat paving from the sewer line replacement in 2015, 2014.
Yeah, there was 5 years worth of
Yeah,
projects there.
so there
I
was.
mean, it'll be up to council to decide
But
what priorities they have for.
what I'm thinking is we may find that there are roads that are more dire need because of their condition than even North Market Street.
Do you have that map?
I don't have it with me, no, I haven't.
Mine got ruined in my car.
Yeah, we can get, you got, he.
It's
laid it out.
it's his first stage of it, there's more to go with that.
Yeah, we
That's-
talked, like, he did a color-coded map, and so you can go down and
Okay.
see which ones, like, different colors are worse.
And what they're gonna do.
Looking at what level of, whether we just need a micro abrasion, if we need just a seal coat. One of the things we learned from PennDOT was that if you do a seal coat every 7 years after you pave something new, that you'll stretch out your road life for about 21 years, and every dollar you spend on the seal coating will save you about $12 in construction costs. So we're looking to put together a comprehensive plan, not just all paving, but, you know, each year, some paving, some sealing, some lesser reconstruction work. You know, also looking at, you know, things like the age of the pipes that are underneath the different sections, and, you know, if we need to do work, obviously, we don't want to pave a street and then dig it up, so we'll be looking
Try
at
to
all that.
stagger that and plan it. Jeff's got it all worked out in his head.
Wish that could easily translate to paper.
Mike did a really good job on it.
He did.
He busted hump on it, and
If you can scan that and send it out, I'd like to see it. You can send it out to the council
It
members.
might be too big.
I might be able to get it.
I'll try it. I think it may fit on our, it
I need another
really,
copy if you can get another copy.
yeah, it's really of minimal value, what it is right now, until it's completed. That's just the first phase, but I'll look into getting it out to everybody.
Thank you. Dr. Christie.
Any other questions about the budget, general or otherwise?
How do you want them getting information back to Bob?
The buzzards aren't real busy, so they can send it through that.
I was just gonna try to feed them while we're looking at
However it works. Email,
5:30.
carrier pigeon,
Do you
get it
go?
to Bob. Huh?
You want to go to Bob or do you?
It can go to either of us. I'm gonna
Or
ultimately
both
give
of
it to
us.
him.
Both
Yeah,
of
or
us.
both.
If you're gonna do it email,
Both
it's
of
just as easy.
Sure.
I wanted to ask Bob a question quick about the liquid fuels.
Okay?
So our balance, this 273, that's what we'll have after we get 2017s?
Now, hang on a second, I gotta find it.
I'm just trying to reconcile it in my head as to what, because we have some money.
Right, but we
set.
have, right, but by the end of 2017, we would have spent roughly 50,000 or so, or 25,000, I have to look at it. But that's correct. If we didn't spend anything out of 2017 at all, that would be our projected balance after we got the state aid in 2017, that is correct. And then we have 2018 coming.
So where is all of that? Because we have
It's
some
in-
with us already.
We have, well, if you look at at the treasurer's report, you can see how much cash we have.
Right,
And then we have a couple CDs.
okay, so.
All right, so it's in,
CDs,
and the
not-
report that you have,
Yeah, it was.
We did, I didn't have this when we were doing that, so.
He's still in the streets part of it, so, yeah, it was with this, it's in the CD, because you and Christie had the right number in your head, the CD was.
So it's this liquid fuel CD for
yeah, so
61,000.
Jeff, if you look at the actual use report, where you got the 273,000 from, look on the back page. The back page, it lists, this is a really useful report, that's why I made sure council got it. It lists all of our resources available to us.
It also tells us Kathy's middle name.
Mine.
Yes. Catherine Irene.
Irene.
That's right. That's my dad's mother's name.
So it looks like there's $106,000 in change at Graceville Bank, and then we've got two highway aid CDs, one for 51 and one for 59.
Right. Where does that?
Okay, so where are you hung up?
I'm just looking at in our weekly banking review, I'm looking at our accounts. The CDs aren't in that?
It's the second page. If you look at the weekly banking review, the second page,
Yeah.
the CDs are listed.
Okay, but that balance doesn't include those CDs?
Yes,
And it doesn't in the other funds either.
right.
Right.
So the ones the whole way out to the right-hand side are the ones that are still in as CDs. And those numbers are not included in the weekly banking review. Okay? Okay.
Good job.
Yeah, I'm good.
Absolutely. Okay. I don't even know where I am now. I'd like to make a motion to release the third quarter payment to the Duncannon Fire Company.
Motion by Ms. Young, a second by Mr. Crawford, will release the third quarter payment from the fire tax to the Duncannon Fire Company. Any further discussion? All in favor, give your consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
My only comment to that, and I don't know that it's not from the fire tax, it's from the general fund.
But
It
it's
all
revenue-
ends up, all ends
It's
up in
revenue
there.
from the fire tax.
Right, but it all ends up in there together.
Right. Anything else?
I don't know that that matters, Irene.
Well, I put it in there, so we saw it.
That's all I have.
Anything for Ms. Young?
You're waiting for me.
Move on to Parks and Recreation, Mr. Williams.
Halloween parade coming up. Chris, Chairman, what do you need?
I'm slowly today I got a flood of applications for registration, which is awesome, so that's finally starting to come back. I guess we need to make the motion to close the streets today. Help me out with the street.
I'm gonna put a motion on the floor to close Market from Clark to Rachel. Apple Alley from Clark to Rachel. From 4 o'clock noon until the end of the parade.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Williams, second by Mr. Adams, to close Market Street from Clark to Rachel as well as Apple Tree Alley from Clark to Rachel, beginning at 4 p.m., concluding at the end of the parade on Saturday, October 28th.
28.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, is there two separate motions?
Same motion, two streets.
Two streets, one
Two
motion.
streets.
Yeah, but then you gotta get from Clark to the square,
I'm
or are
assuming
you
that's gonna
changing
be
the
a
route?
different time.
We don't close that street. That street is handled by the fire police, who let traffic run so long, and then they stop traffic when the parade pulls out.
I thought we had a parking restriction.
Yeah,
That's another motion.
Yeah, it's another motion in the square.
This is for street closure.
Okay, thanks.
Any further discussion? All those in favor give your consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Now, the next motion would be for one-side parking, High Street, from Clark to 849. And the square, no parking on the square from noon on until the end of the parade.
What's the time on the Clark to 849?
Would be the same, from 4.
Or
Till the end.
we have a motion.
Second. So I'll
Motion.
go back to my other question.
Sure.
So, and, like in front of the pub, in front of 19 South Market, whatever that is, in front of the Doyle,
Correct.
didn't we close that too?
We don't close it.
We don't allow them to park there.
Right, you just restrict the parking. Okay, then we'll go up to,
Thank you.
thank you,
Broadway.
to Broadway.
Well, yeah, Plum actually. 'cause
And the
you know,
square to Broad,
but-
restrict parking from noon on.
Can I ask what the reason for noon?
Because we set the trailers in the square, that's the main
Is that what we've
thing.
done before?
Yes.
Okay. It just seemed early.
But the ones on, I mean, it doesn't really matter, but they wouldn't
I
have
mean,
to
you
be
could do
closed
it
at
in two
noon.
different parts there on, from,
They could be 4 to the end of the parade, on
Yes.
those sections of the market.
yes, that could be 4 o'clock.
Do we have
from
a trailer on both sides of the square or just one side?
One side.
I'm just
Just
thinking
one
Nancy
side.
and,
Just one side.
She's closed by
But you
then,
can't have
isn't
the parking because.
And
of
Nancy's
lighting.
closed by then, right? Because I don't want to take the
she
park.
closed by noon?
She's open till
2,
2,
2 on Saturday.
11 to 5 Thursday, Friday, and 10 to 2 on Saturday or something.
she? So we really only need the,
bank side.
thank you.
Yeah.
I was
So
getting.
backside at noon and then the rest at what time?
4.
4.
Okay.
Thank you, thank you.
Hold on, we'll draw a picture.
Let me clarify the motion and we'll see if your second is still good. We have a motion by Mr. Williams, we think a second by Mr. Crothermel. One-sided parking on High Street from Clark to Route 849 from 4 p.m. to the end of the parade. Same with Apple Tree Alley and Market Street closure. We have no parking on the square at the bank side, so that would be the northwest side of the square, those 5 spaces from noon until the end of the parade. And then no parking on the rest of the square as well as Market Street from the square to Broadway Avenue from 4 p.m. till the end of the parade.
Motion stand, or second stands, I'm sorry.
Is everyone clear on the motion? Are you good, Kathy?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. All those in favor give your consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. You're good with everything, Chris?
Most complicated thing we've done all night.
Boy Scouts gotta figure it out.
Well, they do recycling
Yeah,
and
I
parade
talked to
planning.
him about parking a couple weeks ago. So we're gonna set up the sled works. The registration table will be under the buzzards on the tower. At that's where we'll have the tables.
It does make sense for
Figured it
Halloween.
was like a
Those, I was gonna
landmark
say, some of those
thing to
zombies
say.
better be careful.
So that way any of the staff sees somebody looking for the table, they can just say, go to the sled works tower. I figured that'd be a good place to have it.
Don't wear a rubber mask.
Yeah. So I think that's it. We just need to get the streets closed, so.
My only comment to that is, Roadhog made comment of possibly staying open later the night of the parade. to feed folks?
I called them and they said, they didn't say anything about that.
Okay,
Because
well,
I didn't want to make sure I didn't interfere with, what they have.
well, they were going to be there to provide food, because that's one of the things that a lot of the people complained about is, but when you set up, it's dinner time.
Didn't they set up down at the square last year?
I think.
Not last year, I think that was New Year's Eve. All we had was hot dogs and stuff at the end. But I'm just saying, have the conversation, just so y'all aren't end up at the same place at the same
I know,
time.
I'll talk to him again, but
Okay.
he did already.
They might still be watching, I
Oh,
don't
it's the
know.
sesquicentennial.
Let us know.
Back on Apple Tree.
There was Apple Tree.
Okay, that's what I was thinking of.
They were at a Winterfest or something like that.
And then,
Battery died.
Roger, one thing I wanted to follow up with you in front of the
Low
table
power
there.
room.
Stonebridge
That's
sent me
weird,
an
'cause it's
email,
all
they wanted
plugged
to
into
set up
that.
a table to give out free hot dogs.
Is that too?
But the property they want to do it on is on the Clarks Ferry path. Do we need to do anything to get approvals?
No.
Okay, alright. I'll let them know they're good to go then. Okay.
Anything else from Parks and Recreation?
Yes, I have a couple requests. I've been working with the Historical Society on the tavern. Okay. We're to the point where we're removing some of the debris from inside. And we really need a dumpster. The Historical Society is willing to pay per dump, but it's not gonna be like every week, every month. That dumpster might sit there for 3-4 months before it is full. Is there a way that we can waive the rental fee on that and just charge the Historical Society per dump?
Any issue with the door?
I don't know. What's your policy? What's the rule?
I was gonna say, what are other nonprofits, do they have to pay for having
What
a
does the fire
dumpster?
company do?
I don't think they pay a monthly rental.
I don't know about all nonprofits.
Church,
No.
aren't
Churches
churches are
don't,
free?
but
What's that?
Yeah, churches are all
churches
free
are
of
free, but I don't know
trash,
about
stuff like
other
that.
nonprofits.
We don't charge
I don't
churches
know of any.
to pick up?
I don't think so.
I don't know.
Do we have an extra dumpster? Like, how many do we have?
I would have to check with Mike, I think we
Well,
do.
we'll take the one off the park, because that's not needed during the winter months, so there's one there.
And if we needed it, we could always go grab it for whatever period of time.
Right.
I would be comfortable with whatever the policy is.
I don't know if we have anything nonprofit. I don't even, it's never come up.
The churches, the fire company, I don't know that there are any other nonprofits that would have trash pickup presently.
I'd have to look at our ordinance and I've got a copy of the utility policy manual. I don't know, was that ever officially adopted?
I have no idea. Oh, the utility policy manual?
Oh,
I believe,
Yeah, it
yes.
was.
Yes, it
Yeah, it
was.
was.
I don't know if there's
That's
anything
on
in
the way
about nonprofits, but I'll check.
The rental fee's really cheap.
Right,
I mean, it's
right.
not the big part. The
I just want to make sure we're being consistent and we're doing.
It's $5,
whatever Policy is.
$5.95.
Okay, $5.95.
I didn't realize we weren't charging the,
That's what I was under. I mean, I could go look at an account, but
Right.
that's what I've always heard.
okay. I know we at one point weren't charging the fire company for any utilities, and that changed when we increased the contribution a couple years ago. So I just want to make sure we're being consistent, so if you guys can look into that and give some kind of
We'll get you
information.
information.
I think we should include do the same for the historical society, whatever that is, I don't know.
All right, thanks. The other question I have for council is, we were going to move it a year ago. I've already been with Mike Priley, he's been doing some volunteer work there too. The shed that's against the back of the building, that is actually to come up closer to the, between the building and the alley on this side. Because we need to get in that back corner to do work on that building. What I was wondering of council is, Mike is willing to volunteer his time on off hours, not through the borough, if it could be possible that he could use the borough's equipment to do that.
I think from a workers' comp perspective, if he's volunteering for the Historical Society, he's okay. But I don't know that he can volunteer for the borough. Mrs. Dissinger.
I don't think so either.
Because that, especially since that would be part of his job description, like that equipment anyway. There's no way he could volunteer for the borough, but if he was volunteering for some other entity, that.
Roger, is this just to move the shed?
No, we have to level out a spot.
Okay.
They're buying the materials, but we need the backhoe to level out the spot to set the shed. And then to pull the shed onto it, yes.
Do you have an estimate of the amount of time?
No, I'd have to get with Mike on that, figure out his hours, what he would do.
I mean, he's a salaried employee. So an option would be he could do it on borough time as a borough employee if the council so desires, I believe.
If the borough authorizes it,
If the borough offers.
but then you're gonna have a problem.
You got a
everybody-
liability problem.
What?
I think you're gonna have a liability problem if he does it on borough time.
If the borough authorizes him to engage in something on their behalf,
Right.
which is the problem, how's that borough business?
That's,
If something, you mean if something's damaged or?
How is it
Liability or-
advancing borough responsibilities, borough duties?
it's
Every-
potentially helping to preserve a,
If you're helping I'm thinking out loud, if you're helping a nonprofit, do you help other nonprofits on borough time with borough employees?
it sounds like we give the churches free trash.
Well, that's,
They still need dumped.
there's no liability involved with that. I mean, practically, you don't have a person who could
Right.
be injured, because you're not manually dumping it yourself.
Yeah.
I understand, I think, what you're saying.
Why can't the Circle Club or whatever it is, Circle what?
Historical
part-
Society.
part-
Oh,
It's
historical.
This
I knew you
move
were
is
talking about the
actually
historical
benefiting
society, and then
Parks
I
and
thought
Rec.
I heard you say circle something.
No, the Historical Society.
Can't they
This
just rent?
move actually helps Parks and Rec because we use their property. But I know that doesn't, no, I'd have, no, just never mind, I'll go find another contractor. It'll be a lot simpler. Thanks.
Well, if you can rent the backhoe, there's
what I
any
was
reason
thinking.
he can't help you with that,
I'll
because it's
find
not
another
borough time.
contractor. Thanks.
Anything else?
No, that's it.
Anything for Parks and Rec? Okay. Personnel, legal, and IT, I have 2 items. We met this evening as scheduled. I'd like to make a motion to accept the resignation of Lisa Forbes as the part-time billing clerk in the office.
Second.
Effective September
29.
29th. Any further discussion? All those in favor give your, I made the motion, Mr. Adams has seconded the motion. All those in favor give your consent by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. The second is, at least for an interim period for extra duty, I need the exact amount. I'd like to make a motion to increase Mrs. Bauer's pay by $3.25 per hour, the additional duties of the billing clerk during that absence.
Second.
Any further discussion?
With the additional duties, is the hours gonna have to, are the hours gonna have to be increased as well?
It sounds that at this point, no.
A little bit. I mean, but not as much as she worked. It depends on what is going on. Billing goes out the same time bills come in.
We have budgeted, I believe, 20 or 25 hours for each position, so even if it's an additional 10 hours, it's still a savings.
So I'm just saying we don't have to put that in the motion, the hour increase as well as the monetary.
I don't believe.
Okay.
The increased rate and then the hours that are necessary because we have the money.
Okay.
I made the motion, Ms. Young, second. Any further discussion? All those in favor give your consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. That's all I have. Anything for personnel, legal, and IT? Move on then to public safety, Mr. Crawford.
I was out of town the first week of the month, I don't think I met my absence.
I was at Harrisburg Hospital.
Okay. Well, and the committee as a whole did not meet.
Chris said that maybe they didn't.
Did the public safety committee have a meeting?
Councilman Epley and I had a nice conversation about antique cars and a couple other things, and
But were they publicly safe antique cars?
they were very safe.
There you have it.
I apologize, I I knew I was gonna be out of town that week, but I didn't plan ahead enough to set that up to be canceled. I apologize, guys.
I did re-forward, I forgot until I was looking at my notes from last month's meeting, I did re-forward to your borough email addresses, except Roger, National Incident Management System information this afternoon that I think Jeff had requested last month, just the FEMA information, the FEMA information as far as what it is and how it affects us. If there are any questions, I can do my best to answer them. There's a lot of good information there that we discussed last month. The report for NIMS, that was taken care of at the September meeting, right?
I believe so, yes.
Anything else for public safety? We'll move on to the utility, streets, and infrastructure. Mr. Kirkhoff.
All right, the first thing we have is to renew Henkel's and McCoy's service agreement. I'll make the motion to authorize the manager to execute the Henkel's and McCoy service agreement renewal subject to review by the solicitor.
I'll second.
A motion by Mr. Kirkhoff, a second by Ms. Young. To authorize the manager to execute the Henkels and McCoy services agreement, subsequent to review by the solicitor.
Can we get a copy?
I have it here now for you.
Okay.
My only question is, I don't believe I didn't see this agreement, but I've seen the past agreements, just to make sure that the pole replacement project is still on the radar and is going to be part of that, which may incur some additional fees. But I saw there was a comment in the manager's report to that effect.
This agreement just talks about rates for pieces of equipment and individuals. It doesn't talk about project things, but that is,
Just want to make sure that's
yes,
still a priority.
it's still a priority.
Motion by Mr. Kirkhoff, second by Ms. Young. All those, any further discussion? All in favor, give your consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
With that, I know Chris and I and the committee, we've had discussions about getting another provider to have like a secondary agreement with another, but we just don't have another provider
A
yet.
couple of years ago, when that was renewed, I had asked that question. I think Roger was here. Did we look at bids? Did we look at other options? And I believe at that time the consensus at the table was that Henkels and McCoy is really the only option that does the work we need.
Yeah.
So it may be hard pressed to find.
Yeah, that was, our hope was that we could at least find someone else that maybe if Henkel says, oh, well, we're, booked up because of this, but that's a beginning stages thing and
It's not never
likely
done.
something we might never have to use, because we do that's what we said, we do all like Henkel's and McCoy, they do a good job, they're quick. But
And we've been, I think, by and large, very fortunate when we've had, major storms that don't just affect little Duncannon.
Yeah.
They've been very responsive, they've been very quickly, they've been there for the time to get the work done. And we've, in most cases, had users back online before people in surrounding communities.
Right.
One other discussion we had was, with the snowstorm a couple of years ago, getting some of the backhoes and the pile trucks and the other contractors that we may use to solidify their rates prior to meeting them, because, well, that got a little expensive.
We are going to reach out to the people who've done it before and some other contractors in the area and ask them to submit their rates and get them in front of you guys before we get a big snowstorm, hopefully.
And that way we know if there's a 3 o'clock in the morning rate's different than a 10 o'clock in the morning rate, or if a Saturday rate's different than a Friday rate, things like that.
And then, and I'll defer to Mary or Bill, but I don't know if we'll need a formal service agreement with them, but we would have their rates and council would be aware and have approved who the contractors were that we would be using in the event that we'd have that need.
Very good.
The other thing I was gonna talk about was the street repairs, however, we kinda already talked about that, so. Chris, do you have anything else that may have come up since?
Not at the moment. Greg and I are actually meeting tomorrow to talk about the Chestnut Street water shut off and make the plans for when that's going to be done and all the notification and so forth. And looking at, as he mentioned before, how we can make it, obviously it's going to be inconvenient, but we're going to try to make it the least inconvenient that we can. And then also, I'm going to be giving him a copy of Mike's information, so he has that for his files and so forth to review with the figures he gave us already for the different types of construction for the highways, or the streets rather.
I know what I wanna bring up. the street signs. Do you want to give an update on how the sales went?
Bob, do you know what the total was? I know it was over 700, but I don't know.
Well, we sold all but 4, unless,
Well, we
Haven't
have
gone since.
3 that are being held. One, I've got to get to a UPS store and find out how much it'll cost to ship to Alaska. Former resident that lives in Alaska wanted one. And I have
I'll deliver it.
your 2 that were being held for you are in my office as well.
I'm trying
And
to
the rest are
remember.
gone.
The rest are gone.
So what's
Yes,
left? Do you
it was over $700.
So we can get $700 worth of more street signs.
And if I can bring up one other thing, I'm going to bring it up under infrastructure, but a question for Roger. Mike had brought this up, and I completely slipped my mind till tonight when we were talking about it. He had asked, were we considering, with the opening of the watershed for the hunting, were we considering any kind of permit or limit or anything? His thought being that we're going to have some work to do on that road then afterwards, and also just being concerned that it's not overcrowded back there was the other thing he had brought up. I have no feel for it. I've never hunted out there. I don't know.
I thought that when we talked about it originally, we were kind of seeing what kind of field, like, usage we got this year.
Yeah, like I said, Mike just said, well, is there going to be any kind of permit, like wood cutting permits? And
That's kind of how I was looking at it, at least. Like
he
this
had
year,
mentioned about
seeing-
the road and so forth, so I said I would bring it up.
We haven't even considered it,
I don't think we did that
no.
when it was
No,
open
we've
previously.
never
Yeah.
charged for
Well, the
it.
problem would be then somebody would have to be out there to.
Monitoring the permits.
I mean, it's an open gate, so.
Yeah.
Once the gate's open, you either go in or you don't. Like, do we really want to have someone sit out there, but,
We'll send Tony.
I mean, I don't know, maybe, I mean, that would partially be up to Mike too, let Mike see how it goes, and if the road gets really tore up, then maybe we think about instituting something like that to at least get some
Oh,
funds
no,
to
I
fix
think
the
that
road,
as-
but,
As long as he's out there hunting, he'll be there in the morning to open it up.
yeah.
And then, we will need somebody to close it down at night. So, we do have some expenses there, but it's not major.
Yeah.
I've got 3 items if you're done.
Go ahead.
Is there any update on the stormwater drain and work that was started, not finished in the 700 block of High Street, coming down every side of the dress factory?
I have not heard anything about it, I'm not sure where.
They just replaced a drain out there. I'm trying to think which.
There's still areas where there's
But
cold
it's on,
patch and
but
there's
it's
still
on,
areas where
yeah,
there's
it's not on
stone.
that, it's not on the south, or the east side of High, the one they replaced. I'm not sure if they were working
We
on something
replaced
else
the
over
one
there.
at Fleming's today. Remember Jim Fleming, okay, never mind.
Maybe before my time.
You remember where the dry cleaning
Nope.
was?
This was just north of, it was the road that come down in front of Charlie White.
I know where you're talking
There,
about.
there
No,
there was
there's-
work
there's-
done, and at the time, we've discussed this, I think. a
There's
couple times
never
at the
been
table.
blacktop.
It was never finished, and some of the stormwater lines may not have been finished either.
I think they're finished,
Okay.
there.
Okay.
That street's finished, yes.
Kevin, this has stopped me a couple times about it, that there was still some water coming into basements or something at one point. I don't know, so I told him, I'd stay on top of that, so I just wanted to.
Do you want to have Mike check that out and see
I
what?
will.
Perfect.
Because it sounded like, under the former manager, the work was done to the bare minimum, and there was quote, no money, so it wasn't finished. That was the story that I got.
I will check on it. The one thing I will mention, that maybe if he's getting water in his basement there.
And he may not be now, this was some
Okay,
time ago.
because that may be also not just the storm drain, but no curbing.
Okay. I don't know, but I just wanted, I know, I walk that, with the kids pretty frequently,
Yeah.
so I know it's not done, there's no paving there.
We're gonna run out of time for blacktop.
Right,
That's why we should do it, yeah, as quick as
Yeah,
possible.
Bob will check with
15.
Mike on that in the morning.
Right?
Saturday, Sunday. No.
it's
Oh,
passed.
Pass, yeah.
Don.
Sunday. This past Sunday.
You'll still gonna get it, it's just.
Yes.
And this isn't a big area, it's a pipe space. The second item was, did Matt Miser respond? We talked about the forestry project last month, and you were gonna follow up with him. Have you heard anything else from him?
No.
Oh, I did.
Oh,
Yeah, let me check my notes here. We have a timbering contract, and my husband reviewed it. Did he share that
A
with you?
proposal, yes.
Yeah. He shared that
He,
with you?
he was reviewing it, he did not share the results of his review yet.
Okay.
He had told me there were some things he was concerned about that he was looking into.
All right, what he told me to report, I didn't look at the contract or the proposal. We don't have to bid out miser's services because he's a professional. But we will have to bid the actual timbering
Right.
when that
Yes.
happens.
But we don't have even a proposal from them as far as what to be cut or anything like that. That was where we were last month.
No, we don't have a proposal on what's to be cut.
Okay. I think that's what Frank was asking about last
Okay,
month.
sorry.
Okay.
That,
Okay.
it's not on Bill's proposal?
I gave Bill the copy of it, so I'd have to check with him.
I think it's all in Bill's office.
All right, let me see if I
I
have
think-
another file here.
We have a contract with whatever Miser and
As
Associates.
forestry services,
For
and
the
then when we
professional
want to,
services.
when we want to, yeah.
We should have a
Yes.
proposal then from him for what area to cut.
And we always have done that.
Yes.
Okay, so what's the question?
We don't have that. Frank asked the status last month of that proposal.
Of what
to
he
cut.
wants to cut,
Right.
okay, got you.
And we were waiting for Matt Miser to see
Yes.
that, and we haven't seen that. He came to a meeting in,
February.
let's say, early in the year, and we haven't heard, I haven't seen anything or heard from him since.
Yeah, it wouldn't be
That's
that.
what, no, it's not
No.
that. I don't know what you gave him then, because I don't have anything in here other than that. It might
Whatever
go-
he was reviewing is what we got from Matt.
When did you give that to him?
When Matt, after Matt made the proposal at that meeting, we just
Months
handed it.
ago.
Yes, we handed it right to him at
Okay.
the meeting.
Nothing else then since then.
And the
Do you want us to follow up with him, or do you want Chris to do that?
I'll follow up with Bill.
Okay.
I would prefer you to get on that because timber's way up right now. You can make a lot of money. Way up. I just know another county that timber cut and it was 3 times what the estimated was gonna be.
And I know part of that whole project was whatever the option may or may not be with the proposal from the Conservancy. So we're trying to run that all in tandem, I believe.
But I think we should go ahead with the timber cut. That's my feeling.
Yeah.
They need the
Let's-
lumber.
Let's see some numbers.
They need the lumber in Texas.
Um,
That's why it's up.
And then we had talked, when the additional LEDs were ordered to finish Market Street, about having those done before the parade. Is that still on track?
I would have to check with Mike.
We talked about, are those in?
I believe he's been doing them as he's gotten them in. I think he's been putting them in, but I'm not sure.
I don't know that any more on Market Street are done past Clark.
They're here.
Okay. So maybe just be, he has a meeting coming up. We talked about having that done before the parade, up to at least this level.
You moved on a little too quickly
I'm
for
sorry.
me. Maybe it's because it's late, I don't know. With regard to the timbering, Mr. Williams wants to move along real quickly, but if we do the timbering, that puts in jeopardy your conservation easement.
Correct.
Okay? Just wanted to make sure everybody understood that.
Yeah, but we haven't decided on the conservation at all. That's not even come across this table.
Well, I remember that was a discussion we had, okay?
Right.
And so I
Actually-
thought you were keeping all your options open,
that
so I
was-
just wanted to make sure,
That was like 100,000, I think.
yes.
And that's actually, the council moved to have it all referred to Bill for review. And we've met with him, I've met with him to review it, and then we had a meeting with him and with Josh Parrish. Bill expressed council's concerns to Josh, Josh made revisions to it, and that just came back to us last week. Bill has it. He has not completed his review of it yet, but that is ongoing. I know that Josh made several significant changes to it. I don't know yet until Bill gets done reviewing it if it, meets everything that Bill was concerned about in it.
Was the dollar amount still the same?
Yes.
When it came back?
Yes,
Well, what I'm
this had
saying
to
is
do
this
with,
council has not decided to go along with them, but we have decided to do a timber cut. Back in January or February, we agreed to do a timber cut.
If we do a timber cut, we lose this conservancy deal.
That's fine.
No, it's not, but okay,
Well,
when it comes
I'm
to
just
a
saying-
vote,
No, hold
we'll
on,
discuss it.
we don't lose the conservancy deal, we lose the option that is $100,000. We still can get the grant for 500-some thousand.
we're not getting any grant. Nature Conservancy is getting the grant.
Right, but that wasn't, the way that was
They're,
brought across, they were two separate.
I thought the 100,000 was separate.
the 100,000 was
If,
to provide us with revenue in lieu of doing a timber cut this
Until
year
the big-
because of,
But if you did a timber cut, that didn't get rid of the other.
I have no
options
idea. That would be up to
outside.
the Nature Conservancy how they would want to react in that
Because I think there's a
situation.
chance that we get closer to $200,000 on this timber cut.
I'd like to see them, I don't know where Matt stands, I'd like to see those numbers. He hasn't presented to us those numbers, I'm not sure why. So in the past, Dennis was always back in a month or two. It's been, 8 months for Matt, he hasn't been back with the numbers. So till we know those numbers, we can suppose whatever we want, but we don't know. Because they take a cut of that as well,
For sure.
trees coming out. Okay, that's all I had. Do you have anything else?
Do not?
Anything else for utilities, streets, and infrastructure for Mr. Purple? We'll move then to revitalization development, Mr. Adams.
You guys should have a copy of the ordinance 408 of 2017 for the chickens. I'm gonna go ahead and make a motion to advertise it tonight only and for the solicitor to review it. Consider the motion made.
Second. Give it to whoever you want.
That's fine, Kristen.
I already wrote your name.
I'll put something else
Wait,
out.
who did you write down?
For a second.
I wrote Roger.
I wrote Christie, so.
You want us to review it, but you want to advertise it?
No, it's review, advertise it subject to Bill's review.
Okay.
He'll put it in, what we've done is we've modified another ordinance that covers everything that the committee wanted. But now for Bill to put it into the language that he's, if he wants any language change or anything. If it's significant changes, we'll have to come back to
Okay,
the board, but
all right.
Chris, on the second page, on 17, it says there's a maximum of 3.
Yeah, I was actually gonna bring that up,
And I believe
on the second page there in that paragraph where it first starts.
let me find my copy of it here because I had it here.
I had actually.
It might have been something that I missed when I
It
was
says
editing.
6 later, but in this one it says 3.
Okay, that was a case of, that was something I missed in,
And I believe properly should be
Yeah, that first
property.
sentence, property.
Mayor, which page are we on?
It's number 17,
XX17.
Okay.
Page 2,
yep, page 2,
XX17, number and type of chickens allowed.
A.
Live ones.
Line A.
Should read the maximum number of chickens allowed on property on which a dwelling is located is 6.
Yeah, this one, in converting from PDF to Word, it switched
Oh, right.
property to properly, that was what happened there.
Draft.
The 3 is just, missed that in editing it. Well, missed a typo too.
Was there anything else?
Under the definitions, under dwellings, two-family, semi-detached, what number those are? I'm thinking there probably should be a definition.
There should be, and
Yeah, I actually.
it's the same definition as is in our zoning, and for some reason in formatting it, that vanished from that.
Okay.
I had
So
some
we'll
other
get
questions.
you a revised one, and then you can look at it.
Yeah, all the dwelling out definitions all came straight from our zoning ordinance, so that it would be consistent.
Understood. Under subsection 19, under B, it says that the coop must be stationary. However, it's on the
Okay, gotcha.
second line under B. And under section C, if you look at the end of the fourth line, it starts if using a chicken tractor or portable pen. So that, a chicken tractor is not a stationary building.
Right, and that's why it's defined that with the chicken tractor you can, because they're different, two different things.
You can, but it's.
Under our definition.
Under B, it says the coop shall be stationary.
Right, the
Because
coop will be
is
stationary, but
defined.
the chicken.
Yeah, that,
But it requires.
that needs to be fixed. That
Under
was,
the.
because
under
we
the
wanted to add the
definition
chicken
of coop, it says you would
tractors.
have to have one attached to your tractor as well.
Yes, the committee wanted to include the chicken tractors because in the flood zone, permanent installation would not be allowed.
I didn't know that.
And so I added it in C, I missed it in B,
I didn't know.
and that needs
I
to be
guess I
edited
had the
in.
wrong idea of what a chicken tractor was. According to Mr. Bissonnette, because I thought it wasn't, I didn't know the coop had to be attached to it. I thought it was like its own thing that you moved around. You know what I mean?
You do move it around, but if your chickens are required to be in the coop during certain hours, it would have to be attached to the coop. You can get a coupe tractor combo that moves
Okay.
along with it, but under the other requirements, it almost has to be attached. There's
Yeah, because
no
you want them to be able to
practical-
go into the coop or into the run during the daytime, so they can access their water and feed and so forth.
Okay, same subsection, still under 19, under D, it says slaughter of chickens is permitted. I suspect that's supposed to say not, because the way it reads,
Yes.
it contradicts subsection 22E. Slaughtering, killing, or butchering of chickens is prohibited. I don't really see where that's a practical rule. If you're gonna keep chickens, when they get old, you slaughter them, so. That's
We decided to
not
keep the
realistic.
slaughtering out because of the blowback about the witnessing and people cutting chickens' heads off out in the open. And it's much easier to prohibit it than try and regulate it by forcing them to do it inside or something like that.
And actually,
But
when
it's
you-
up for discussion.
And you, when you go back and you look at ordinances of boroughs in Pennsylvania that have chickens, almost every one of them
I
says,
haven't seen any with slaughter.
yeah, they almost all outlaw slaughtering in the borough.
I understand that, but it's a provision that doesn't really make sense. If you're gonna keep livestock, even only 6 of them,
Well,
you should be able to efficiently use the byproducts of that.
In reference to this ordinance, the reason we decided to, another reason that I decided to put in there, because after talking to some people that have chickens, with us limiting to 6, right?
Mhm.
They're saying that there's no way that you can maintain a slaughter versus live rotation of chickens with age on 6.
Mhm.
So it was almost like it was mute, like there wouldn't be, because what you're trying to avoid is somebody buying 6 chickens, butchering them, and then, just having like a constant, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Mhm.
I get what you're saying, when they get old, you wanna do something with them. You wanna butcher them, you wanna use them as you can. But I guess the spirit of the ordinance was to stop people from buying chickens and then constantly butchering them. And you know what I mean? Like, I don't wanna see people setting up some kind of processing thing, you know what I mean?
Where they're raising 6 chickens at a time specifically for some.
Right, and then just going out and get more, because that's what I'm trying to avoid is somebody taking, because it's all about how they interpret what we're doing.
And it just seems like the way it's worded, it kind of discourages people from efficiently using what they have.
Right.
Kind of limits what they can do with essentially their property.
Well, you
Oh,
don't,
you're saying
you
that-
don't want to be an ag zone.
I'm not trying to make it an ag zone. It's very simply, if you have an old chicken, it makes sense to slaughter it and use it rather than let it die on its own and be wasted.
Any further discussion?
I had another question. Why notarized signatures for the
I'll send
application?
him one of my 2-year-old chickens and see if he wants to eat.
It was in several of the ordinances, and in particular, it plays into being important because of having the property owner has to sign off for it.
Mhm.
So that way, we know that it's, validly the property owner's signature on the application.
Do we have a notary here?
No. Could we make it notarized or borough employee witnessed? Borough office
That
employee
would make a lot
witnessed?
more sense to me.
Can we do that, solicitor? Does that?
I'm sorry, I was still thinking about the chicken that you might not want to eat if it was 6 years old. I was making a note here about the ordinance. What was the question again?
If, instead of having a
Oh, about the
notarized
notary,
signature,
yeah.
having a notarized signature or witnessed by a borough employee signature.
Borough office employee, I think.
I don't see any reason why you can't just have a borough employee get ID and make sure that it's really the person who's signing the application.
Or, yeah, maybe just make it, witnessed here or notarized if it's coming in unsigned.
And I think that's part of the
They're
reason
coming in
why.
signed, yeah.
Right, because they might come in signed, because if the owner lives out of state, it might be mailed to us, and it would need to be
Yeah.
notarized, and we wouldn't have the witness, so.
So if the owner's living out of state, how are they raising chickens here?
They're not,
they
but
have
they're
They're not, they're allowing their tenant to do it.
Well, you're not allowing the tenant.
Does this
to do
ordinance
this.
permit that?
No. We're not allowing.
This allows the tenant to, with the property owner's
Yeah.
permission.
That's what we talked about
Okay.
last week.
Yeah.
the lessee or tenant of a residential dwelling becomes a co-permittee.
It's a residential dwellings, not the like apartments, it's the,
And they are jointly and severably, as I think is the legal term, liable. They're both liable for violations, so the owner is responsible.
Keep them out of apartments.
Okay, not having read the ordinance, that's what you provided for in here?
Yes.
Okay.
yeah, I would prefer it to be that the borough employees can sign off if it's here rather than, I mean, it's just another cost to.
Right.
You can allow for either.
Okay.
Yeah. That would make sense.
So we're in agreement to add that to the order, that.
I mean, I don't know if we, I'm,
So I think we have a motion that Mr. Adams, and second by Ms. Young, to advertise the ordinance subject to the solicitor's review. We did note on page 2, under item 17, the properly becomes property, and 3 becomes 6. I don't know that we had consensus or a resolution on the slaughtering, killing comments.
do we want to, do we go item by item and see what we vote? I don't know.
I have lost so much of my life to chickens.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, like what's in here is what I wanted to present it as, so like, you know, if we're gonna debate individual things, we're welcome to, but.
We've done this for the last 5 months.
Yeah, I mean,
We can certainly do it.
5 months.
I just want to make sure the solicitor knows what what they're reviewing and what.
Right.
Well, I think Chris is gonna give me a clean copy, so the typos will be corrected. It was intended that it would be not slaughtered chickens, so that's what I'm expecting in the ordinance that I review. And then there's some definition that needs added. And the chicken tractors have to be added to one paragraph, which was B. And that was pretty much it.
And the witnessed
The
signature.
place that
Yeah.
the chicken tractor's okay is just strike the statement, the coop shall be stationary.
Mary, should there be a motion to approve the amendments?
The reason we
And
had to
then-
say it was stationary.
What
was something
amendments?
Well,
that
these
people that
changes to
wanted
what
the
was
flood
in writing, or are
plain.
these
We're
just
not-
corrections?
We're not supposed to have, that.
Do we need to?
Oh.
The flood zone, if you
Well,
have a
it's-
structure, it has to be.
It's subject to our
like, it
review,
has to be
so,
Okay.
permanent, you know what I
and
mean?
and it was if, unless there's significant changes,
And he
it doesn't
wasn't
need to
sure
come
if
It'll
back.
just be these that we just discussed.
Wait, I have to say, Chris, I think you said it backwards.
Yes.
In the floodplain, it
No,
has
I'm
to be
sorry.
able
Yeah,
to
I'm
be
sorry.
moved.
Yeah, I'm
It
sorry.
cannot be stationary in the
No,
floodplain.
but if we,
Because then they have to go through the floodplain ordinance
To do it.
and all of that stuff and elevation
$20,000
certificate, right. Might as well, if it's not laying golden eggs
Chicken
anymore.
tractors are in the floodplain.
Yes.
right, that
So
was
that
the
they can,
intent, right?
yeah, so that they can drive their chicken tractor in and
So
drive it away if it floods.
Yeah.
Is the intent that the chicken tractors only be allowed in the floodplain?
No, we just wanted to include them in the ordinance so we can allocate 4 people.
Well, then the way to make the ordinance match itself would just be to remove the words coop shall be stationary.
So a coop and a chicken tractor.
Or actually, just remove the
Same
word
thing.
stationary.
So, okay, but in our definitions, they're two different
From
things.
the coop shall be
We'll,
included.
we'll fix that consistent with what, and Mary has the notes too, of what you wanted in
I
there.
just completely.
We have a motion with a second.
Tractor's a different thing.
Is there any further discussion? Motion by Mr. Adams, second by Ms. Young to forward proposed ordinance number 408 of 2017 to the solicitor for review and subsequently advertise.
Would you like to amend your motion to include the changes as directed to the
Oh,
table?
absolutely, yeah, include.
I
What are those changes?
second the amendment. Everything that Mary just said.
The dwelling, two-family semi-detached definition, the clerical error on properly becoming property, the number 3 becoming 6,
Yes,
the chicken tractor clarification in letter B,
yes.
and the addition of signature witnessed by a borough employee.
And the whole slaughter being consistent, right?
Being-
So adding the word not, slaughter chickens is
Correct.
not permitted.
No, I'm only confused on B now and C. I have not read either of these paragraphs, but I know that C has the word chicken tractor, B does not. It's intended that
It
in the
will be consistent,
floodplain,
that
in
they
the
can-
floodplain, that it has to be a chicken tractor.
This won't talk at all about the floodplain. This will allow chicken tractors, the floodplain ordinance governs what's allowed in the floodplain, and it can't be permanent
Okay,
under
Keep your
that.
chickens
and
out of
so
the
you
coop and put them-
do want chicken tractors in places other than the floodplain?
If people want to use those, that's what the ordinance allows.
Have described it as a separate thing from a coop.
It's just a
I don't think
movable
it
coop.
matters. Yeah, it's just a movable coop.
Right.
Yes,
Movable
it
pen
is.
for the
Because it's gonna be
chickens.
using the standard
We're having three
setbacks.
discussions, guys.
Yeah, but the chickens have excrement, and if you're moving your chicken tractor every so often, it takes a while for that excrement to dissipate. And if they just leave it in their yard, you may end up with an area that's 4x6 that's looking pretty crappy, another 4x6 that looks pretty crappy, and another 4x6, and then the neighbors start complaining because you've got three 4x6 areas that really don't smell so
That makes your
good.
job even harder
And,
now.
well, but
Oh, I know.
the ordinance does not allow leaving the manure regardless.
Exactly, the ordinance.
Okay,
So,
I'll take a look. I understand. Chicken tractors are permitted everywhere.
Yeah, I didn't think we talked about chicken tractors being accessible everywhere, but.
I don't think there's any purpose in restricting it.
No.
Other than what she said.
But it's in
So then
there
you're gonna have the
that they
same
to
thing in
keep
the
it clean.
floodplain.
Right, but it's limited.
People could move their coops at their house too. Like you could, I mean, if you wanted to, you could.
they're still going to have to keep it clean.
Yes.
It's like I think of it kind of like before we had indoor plumbing, like people moved to their bathroom around their yard. You can do the same thing with the coop.
And look at how much fun that was at the tavern.
Subsequent advertising will have the public hearing
Okay.
and, accept public comment on it before it would be adopted or not adopted, probably sometime in December. Is there any further discussion? We have a motion by Mr. Adams, second by Ms. Young.
I have a question. Does your trash collector accept manure?
We are a trash collector currently.
Okay.
Does our, where we drop it, accept it? Okay.
All right.
Anything
I
else?
think I'm done with questions.
All those in favor give your consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Adams.
That was all I wanted to focus on tonight was the chicken working.
I have no idea what the rest of your committee is going to do.
We'll have to like really
I know.
focus on
Well,
blight
trust
and
me,
stuff.
there's three or four things that are on the table after this.
Which I have some more research to do, but I have some more ordinances that I found about blight that are working in other places.
Anything else from Mr. Adams? We've done finished business, any unfinished business this evening? Any new business? Mrs. Dissinger, I have a question.
Yes, sir?
Short of stirring anything up from earlier in the meeting, Mr. Rogan serves on our municipal authority. Made a statement tonight on the record that any work he does will no longer be volunteer, he's gonna charge us $100 an hour. Should we have any concern there too?
He's on the municipal authority,
Correct.
and he's not compensated.
Correct.
Hmm.
That's not a paid position, so he made a pretty clear statement that anything he does for the borough
Yes,
will
his
be.
statement was very clear. I'm not sure whether that was his intention or not, but you have to take it at face value.
That's my concern.
So, does everyone on the municipal authority serve gratis?
Correct.
Well, then he's aware of that.
He has been on the authority for a couple of years. Should there be some correspondence either from your office or from this table?
I would
Just
like to have
reminding
the
you.
opportunity to think about that and get back to you. In the event that we determine that there should be some correspondence from us to him about that, would you authorize that?
I'll make a motion to authorize the solicitor to correspond if appropriate with Mr. Rogan.
Second.
And I want it clear, we won't take any action, and you can't take any action until we evaluate the situation.
I made the motion, I think,
Give it to Darrell.
Mr. Crawthorne will second the motion. Any further discussion? All those in favor give your consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I just want to make sure we're not in any liabilities, and there was a statement that was pretty clear made on the record for all of us to hear.
I understand.
Any other new business? We have a second public comment session. Thank you all for sticking around. It's not even 9:30 yet. Anyone have anything? Thank you for being here. Our next regular meeting will be Tuesday, November 21st, after the general election, 7 PM here. We look forward to seeing you all back. Thank you all for being here tonight.
So we'll be up front.
That's election in 7.
Oh. Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Ms. Young, a second by Mr. Epley. Any additional discussion? All in favor, give your consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Have a good night. Thank you.